Look here. Look here! Look, listen!
That is an awesome thing. That's a compliment.
It's not an awesome thing. It hits you all at once, dude. Have you ever... Well, you probably have.
You gotta look at it glass half full, glass half empty.
I'm not interested in anything, dude. I turned the only interest I had in life into my job.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man. All I wanted to do was, like, I was lonely. I wanted to just stream and have a good time, maybe have a good game.
In the vast and chaotic world of online gaming, legends are not born only through skill, but through the personalities behind the screen. Some creators rise to fame through unmatched talent, others through charisma or controversy. And then there are those whose stories go beyond the games they play. Stories that grow into myths, cautionary tales, and internet lore. Among these figures stands Wings of Redemption, from lashing out at friends for doing exactly what he had asked of them.
Fuck! Why the fuck you stream that shit?
It was your idea.
No, I didn't say stream.
I thought it was your idea.
2. Throwing his own wife over a table. Jordie Jordan was never the kind of person you would expect to find in the spotlight. He did not have a polished image or a carefully managed persona. What he had was a voice and a willingness to use it. At a time when YouTube gaming was still raw and unrefined, Jordie spoke directly to his audience in a way that felt different, unfiltered, almost brutally honest.
And it's the truth. A lot of these guys have fake personalities on their commentaries, and it's like, okay, that's a good business decision, but I can't bring myself to do that.
His earliest videos were simple, just gameplay layered with his thoughts. There were no flashy edits, no gimmicks, no attempt to dress things up. It was a man with a microphone telling it how he saw it. For viewers searching for something authentic, this was enough. Jordie's commentary connected, and in those first years, he rose quickly, joining the ranks of the early pioneers who were shaping the future of gaming content. But the internet has a way of turning strength into weakness. The same honesty that drew people in also revealed sides of Jordie that were harder to ignore. He spoke openly about his struggles, his frustrations, his ambitions, and over time audiences began to notice patterns. Promises of change, glimpses of new beginnings, followed by silence, or by a return to familiar ground. Energy that seemed bright at first, but faded quickly. His story, even in those early years, was never just about gaming. It was about a man trying to find direction in real time while the world was watching. And the world did watch. Every upload, every live stream, every moment of tension or self-doubt became another piece of a larger narrative. Some fans sympathized, others mocked, and soon Jordie Jordan was no longer simply a voice in the gaming community. He had become a character, a figure both celebrated and ridiculed, whose life played out in clips, memes, and debates across the internet. Yet behind all of it, behind the noise and the spectacle, there remains the man himself, caught between what he wanted to be and what the internet decided he was. This is his story, the story of Wings of Redemption. But stories like Jordie's are not told in a straight line. They are shaped by moments, sudden turns that shift everything. For Wings of Redemption, the first of those moments arrived early in his career, around 2011, and it would follow him for the rest of his career. In 2011, Wings and his friends invited one of the biggest names in the Call of Duty scene onto their podcast. Their guest was Syndicate, widely regarded at the time as the best Call of Duty Zombies player in the world. Wings grew combative. He insisted that he was the better player, not just in Zombies, but in Call of Duty as a whole.
Compared to, like, the guy we just saw in PKA saying, you know, Tom, trust me, I'm better than you at Zombies. You know?
Yeah, but see, I really do think.
He pointed to his achievements in other games, boasting about unlocking rare trophies and mastering difficult titles.
I mean, how many games have you seen me play where I wasn't really good at? Like, I just posted Dead Space. I started playing Dead Space 3 days ago, and I did the toughest achievement in the game.
To Wings, these were proof that his skill level could match or surpass anyone's. Syndicate, to his credit, tried to keep the conversation respectful. He told Wings that confidence was important, that every good player should believe in themselves.
Having confidence behind yourself is always a great thing. If you go through life going, I'm not the best, someone else is the best. You know, you're not exactly...
But as the back and forth continued, Syndicate pressed the point. Was Wings really claiming to be the best Call of Duty player? Wings hedged. He said he was the best commentator who played, and that in a normal multiplayer setting he could hang with the very best, leading his team to victory more often than not.
I'm not the best Call of Duty player, but I bet you if you put me in the same room as the best, I could hang with him.
However, when challenged about the kill-to-death ratios, he brushed it off, saying other modes inflated the stats.
I mean, just because you have a high KD, like Mark J has a way better KD than I do, mainly because he plays ground war. You got to factor in those extra 3 people, and you got to average those into chopper gunners.
And when his past one-on-one losses were brought up, he had an answer ready. Those matches weren't realistic, he claimed. They didn't reflect how Call of Duty was really played.
You have to beat him. You know, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Like
I don't have to beat him. I beat him so many times in a regular room, and Call of Duty is not a one-on-one environment. The situation where Fearcraz and all them won, the thing you and Syndicate were in, that's not a realistic scenario. The fact is, it's 12 people on maps that you have people spawning in front of other people. There was times where I seen like the Game 360 go on a negative 14 kill streak. Like I even commented on it because I was the one doing the color commentary on that shit.
To his critics, it sounded like excuse after excuse, a man protecting his ego. And the live chat noticed. Messages flooded in, mocking him, telling him to stop. Wings lashed out, threatening to ban anyone who repeated it.
I think that's a good policy.
By the way, anybody that told me to shut up, you're getting banned from the stream.
Yeah, guys, knock it off on the shut up thing. Like,
Then came the moment that changed everything. Syndicate didn't insult him, didn't mock him. He simply offered a challenge. He said he'd never played Wings before, and that plenty of people claimed to be the best, but if Wings truly believed it, they could settle it in a match right then and there.
I would go
Don't
for
use
it.
your
I would,
10
honestly, I would
sensitivity
do it.
versus my 2
I mean,
sensitivity.
I'm not the person who's like, if I lose, I'm not going to be like, oh, fuck. You know, I'd do it for the fun of it. I'd go for it.
let's do it.
So what map are we playing?
Wings agreed, but only under one condition. He had to be the host.
He's going to be playing
yeah.
across
You
the
think you're
street.
hosted? We're
I'm
getting
not going to
into
play
it.
unless I have host.
After some back and forth, the group settled on a compromise. Woody, another member of the podcast, would host as a neutral party, but it wasn't truly neutral. Syndicate was connecting from the United Kingdom, while both Woody and Wings were based in the United States. The result was an uneven playing field, with Syndicate fighting against a noticeable disadvantage in connection. Besides that, Wings even played a warm-up match with another host while Syndicate was busy setting up his Xbox. The map was chosen, a map which Wings claimed he had never lost in, the weapon selected by Wings himself. By all accounts, the match was tilted in his favor. This was supposed to be his chance to prove himself, live in front of thousands.
Like I could put up a fight against, you know, in like COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, World at War, but then throw me in
Dude,
against Black Ops.
You would
and
get
I'd
destroyed in World at War.
crushed.
I have never lost.
As the game began, things looked promising for Wings. Early on, he managed to keep pace, trading kills with Syndicate and holding his own. But as the match wore on, Syndicate began to adapt. Slowly but surely, the balance shifted. The gap widened, and before long, Wings found himself falling behind. The final score was clear: 14 kills for Syndicate, 9 for Wings. A decisive loss, especially under conditions Wings himself had pushed for. At first, the banter was playful, but as the score tilted against him, Wings' tone grew harsher. What had started as light trash talk became frustration, then anger. When the game ended, that frustration boiled over. On stream, Wings muttered a bitter "fuck you" in Woody's direction, then hurled his controller across the room. The crash was sharp and unmistakable, ringing out for everyone watching live. Moments later, his voice cut through again, furious and humiliated. Why did you even stream that?
Fuck! Why the f you stream that shit?
It was your idea.
No, I didn't say stream it.
But the irony was impossible to ignore. The stream wasn't Woody's idea. Wings had made sure the match was broadcast. Earlier in the same conversation, amidst his trash talk, he had insisted they play right then and there, and that it be streamed live. Syndicate may have issued the challenge, but it was Wings who demanded it be immediate, public, and definitive.
We're
I'm
getting
not going to
into
play
it.
unless I have host.
Game Dunzo. Game Dunzo, baby.
Ooh.
We got a game. We're doing this now. You gonna go buy the Game Dunzo server? Be my guest.
No. We can set that up, right? Already up server?
Yeah.
His confidence had been absolute. He had even joked that people would need to pay him $1,000 to play in the future. But for now, he was giving Syndicate the chance for free.
How much money you paying me?
You're getting none of my money.
You can do it for free right now,
I
or you
don't
can
want
pay
any
me like
of your money.
$1,000 later.
And yet the very moment it all fell apart, Wings wanted it raced. Almost immediately after his outburst, he demanded the stream be ended, even though the others were prepared to continue.
I don't give a Please cancel the stream. I do not want to hear these talk.
Alright.
The spectacle he had created, the match he had forced into the spotlight, was cut short at his request, leaving behind not only the sound of his anger and the memory of a meltdown that could never truly be taken back. For Wings, this wasn't just a loss. It was a collapse of the image he had been building, a moment where the confidence he wore like armor cracked in front of thousands. To the audience, it was unforgettable. To Wings, it was unbearable. The match he demanded, the match broadcast at his own insistence, became the moment that defined him, not as the best Call of Duty player, but as someone who cracked under pressure in front of a community that would never let him forget it. The meltdown would go on to define Wings' reputation for years, but moments like this don't come out of nowhere. The anger, the defensiveness, the need to prove himself, it all had roots that stretched far deeper than a single Call of Duty match. To understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to go back to Wings' early life, to the struggles that shaped him long before YouTube ever knew his name. Born on April 21st, 1986 in South Carolina, Wings' story began under circumstances that would shape much of his future. His arrival into the world came as the result of a teenage pregnancy, and almost immediately, instability marked his life. His father, an alcoholic, chose not to stay. Abandonment came early, and the young boy's family relied heavily on his grandparents for shelter, living together in a small trailer because his parents were too young and too unprepared to support him. In fact, there's information floating around online that suggests Jordie might have actually been the product of an incestuous relationship. While it's hard to verify whether there's any truth to that claim, the rumor has been repeated enough within the community that it became part of his internet lore. And when we tried to look it up, we found this video on Reddit where Wings himself mentioned it. He said that his mom and dad both were Jordans and that they were never married.
Dead.
Cousins, and it's all over it. Like Family Guy makes jokes of it and stuff like that.
Well, it's not rampant like that. It's not. But like I'm the wrong person to ask of that because my parents actually were somewhat related. My daddy was a Jordan and my mother was a Jordan. It was never married.
So yeah, there is that. But even in those earliest years, hardship found its way into Wings' life. While playing with his brother, a baseball bat slipped and struck him in the head, causing severe swelling and leaving him at risk for further complications. The incident didn't impair his thinking, but it was a stark reminder of how quickly circumstances could turn against him. Yet despite the instability, Wings was not without ability. According to him, in those early years he was physically fit, often finishing first in races and games at school. But that streak ended around the age of 6, when a foreign exchange student joined his class. Suddenly, the contests he once dominated slipped away. No matter what he tried, this new presence always outperformed him. The realization stung. For Wings, being outshined wasn't just a loss, it was a blow to his identity. And so, in a child's logic, he decided that the only way to reclaim his spot on top was to grow bigger and stronger. He asked his grandmother for more food, believing that size alone would make him unbeatable. She gave it without question, never knowing that this choice would mark the start of a lifelong struggle. Instead of growing stronger, Wings grew heavier, and the weight he put on quickly became another burden to carry. By the time he was still just a boy, his body had already begun to change in ways that made him stand out. The athletic future he once imagined faded as his weight grew, and with it came social isolation. Making friends was difficult, and fitting in was nearly impossible. And as the doors of sports and popularity closed, another door opened, the world of video games. Games became more than entertainment. For Wings, they became an escape, a place where the ridicule of classmates and the weight of insecurities couldn't reach him. In digital worlds, he could be powerful, respected, even admired. It was the beginning of a bond that would carry him through much of his life. But outside of games, reality continued its steady march of difficulty. Wings, his mother, and his brother eventually moved into Section 8 housing, government-subsidized projects that exposed him to a harsher environment. According to him, the neighborhood was so unsafe that even as a young child he was required to have an ID card made because missing children were often reported. For a boy only 6 or 7 years old, this wasn't just unusual, it was terrifying. As the years passed, his struggles didn't ease. His weight climbed rapidly, and by high school, Wings was 6 feet tall and 240 pounds, a size that made him stand out for all the wrong reasons. It was during this time that he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and social anxiety, two conditions that made the task of fitting in even harder. Making friends felt impossible. Yet eventually there were some small breakthroughs. He found companionship in a girl named Kelly, and slowly he managed to build a fragile circle of friends. But those connections were fragile and hardship wasn't finished with him yet. Now for those of you who have been following Wings for a while, you already know exactly who Kelly is, and the role she's going to play as this story unfolds. But for those who aren't as familiar, don't worry. Just keep in mind that Kelly is an important figure in Wings' life, and her name will come up again later as we dive deeper into the story. For now, let's just go back to his early friend circle. One night while living in the projects, Wings became the victim of his second serious injury. A man attempted to steal his mother's car, and in an act of defiance, Wings tried to intervene. His courage was met with violence. A gun went off and the bullet lodged in his leg. The wound would stay with him, both as a scar and as a reminder of how dangerous his environment had been. Despite these challenges, Wings entered the workforce. His first job was at a grocery store, where he was tasked with restocking and cleaning shelves. But monotony weighed on him, and in just 2 weeks, he quit. That decision, though small at the time, foreshadowed a pattern that would echo throughout his life. A struggle with consistency, with sticking to tasks that didn't engage him.
I will never work at a grocery store again. Grocery stores are generally... I think I worked 3 days at the IGA as a whole. And to this day, it's probably the only job I've ever quit. And the reason I quit was it was so mind-numbingly boring. You talk about a boring job working at a grocery store. I mean, you pretty much front shelves all day.
From there, he tried his luck at a video rental store. The job seemed better suited to him, surrounded by games and movies, but even there, danger followed. One day, 3 armed robbers stormed the store. Wings survived, but the trauma of being held up stayed with him. Not long after, he left that job behind too. Next came a stint as a Domino's delivery driver.
Big Larry used to, when I was a pizza delivery driver, Big Larry was so big, like he had to be 600 plus. But he'd always order, I'd always know him. When I seen the order, I knew it was Larry's order before I knew where I was going. He didn't tip either.
The pay was modest, but the risks were high. On one delivery, he was ambushed, struck on the back of the head with the barrel of a shotgun, and robbed of just $20. It was a humiliating and terrifying experience, and eventually a conflict with a manager ended that job as well. Still searching, Wings found work as a 911 operator. For 2 weeks, he sat at a desk, fielding calls, but the stress and responsibility quickly overwhelmed him. Once again, he was let go. By this point, young Jordie had already cycled through several jobs, each one ending in either resignation or dismissal. Restlessness followed him everywhere. He struggled to find work that engaged him, and more often than not, he left positions behind as quickly as he started them. But his next job, the final one before YouTube, was different. This one he took seriously. Jordie found work at a Chinese-owned company called Metglass, which specialized in producing a unique type of glass that was in high demand at the time. It wasn't the kind of work most would dream of, but it came with stability, purpose, and pay that was far above anything Jordie had ever earned. As a crane operator, he was making $25 an hour, a wage that, in the mid-2000s, felt like striking gold. For once, the chaos that had defined his youth seemed to quiet down. He had money coming in, a routine he could depend on, and a sense that perhaps finally he had found his place. But the security didn't last. When the 2007 recession swept through the economy, companies like Metglass were hit hard. Import and export complications strained their operations, and soon the business began letting go of its employees. Jordie, despite his effort and consistency, was one of the many to lose his job. Overnight, the sense of stability he had worked so hard to build disappeared. He found himself unemployed and directionless once again, left to wrestle with the same uncertainty that had haunted so much of his life. Jobless and moneyless, Jordie returned to the one constant that had always been there for him: video games. Outside of a small circle of family and friends, gaming was all he had to lean on. He poured himself into it, spending hours at a time immersed in the virtual worlds that had once been his childhood escape. But this time, those games would become more than just a distraction. A friend of his, known online as Z7 Taylor, had already been experimenting with something new. Taylor recorded clips of himself playing Call of Duty, edited them, and uploaded them to YouTube. The platform was still young, but those videos began to gather views, recognition, and a sense of community that Jordie couldn't ignore. He saw firsthand the attention Taylor was receiving, and it planted an idea in his mind. If Taylor could find an audience simply by sharing the games they already played together, why couldn't he? Jordie was already spending countless hours in Call of Duty lobbies, already developing strategies, already pouring his voice into the microphone during matches. All it would take was the decision to hit record, to upload, and to put himself out there. And so, inspired by his friend and driven by the sudden vacuum left by the recession, Jordie's next chapter began. What started as late nights spent gaming to fill the void of unemployment was about to transform into a career. The boy who had once retreated into video games for comfort was stepping into a space where the entire world could hear his voice. That voice would not be polished nor carefully managed. It would be blunt, unfiltered, and at times abrasive. But in that rawness lay something compelling, something that drew viewers in, even if it also pushed others away. This was the beginning of Wings of Redemption, a new identity born out of hardship, shaped by struggle, and destined to carry all the weight of Jordie's past into the spotlight. Jordie's leap into YouTube was not impulsive, it was calculated, born from observation and timing. After watching his friend Z7 Taylor receive attention for uploading gameplay, Jordie saw potential. If Taylor could build an audience by simply sharing Call of Duty clips, then surely he could too. But unlike Taylor, Jordie wanted to do it right from the beginning. So in the fall of 2009, he made an investment. He purchased an expensive capture device, the Hauppauge HD PVR, a piece of equipment that cost nearly $200, a steep price for someone recently laid off and struggling financially. But to Jordie, it was a gamble worth taking. The HD PVR would allow him to record crisp, high-definition footage of his matches, at a time when most of YouTube was still filled with grainy, low-quality uploads. That decision alone set him apart. In January 2008, he launched his channel, Wings of Redemption. The name carried weight, a mix of personal symbolism and gaming identity, a moniker that would soon become infamous. His first 2 uploads were simple enough, but it was on his 3rd video that Jordie did something most players weren't attempting yet. He spoke directly to the audience.
Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, hi again, this is my first commentary, and here we go.
His voice carried over the gameplay, offering commentary, thoughts, and personality, alongside the footage. It wasn't just about what was happening on screen anymore, it was about the person behind the controller. This style was revolutionary for its time. YouTube was still young, and while commentary videos are common today, back then it was a novelty. Combined with the sharp HD quality of his recordings and occasional glimpses of his face, Wings of Redemption quickly distinguished himself from the sea of anonymous, faceless uploads. He wasn't just showing gameplay, he was building a persona. The formula worked. Jordie uploaded regularly, sometimes multiple times a week, and that consistency became one of his early strengths. His channel grew quickly. Within the first month, he had nearly 2,000 subscribers, a number that in 2009 represented real traction. By all measures, he was off to a strong start. It didn't take long for his network to expand. Z7 Taylor, the friend who had first inspired him, caught the attention of a larger creator at the time, a channel known as Hutch is Your Daddy. Hutch was one of the pioneering names in Call of Duty commentary, and his shout-out to Taylor provided a ripple effect that extended to Jordie as well. With the association, Wings of Redemption's subscriber count surged. From just a few thousand, his audience swelled to nearly 7,000 shortly after. For a small-town gamer from South Carolina, those numbers were staggering. He had gone from obscurity to becoming a recognized name within the growing Call of Duty communities in a matter of weeks. But with exposure came scrutiny, and scrutiny quickly led to Jordie's first brush with controversy. In a now-deleted video, Wings of Redemption publicly criticized Hutch's style of play. Hutch was known for quickscoping, a flashy technique with sniper rifles that involved zooming in and firing with lightning speed. The method was risky but spectacular, producing the kind of clips that excited viewers and kept them entertained. To many, it was an art form, but to Jordie, it was unrealistic. On camera, he dismissed the practice outright, arguing that quickscoping had no basis in real-life military tactics. In his view, Call of Duty was meant to be played as a simulation, and players should treat it with the seriousness of an actual battlefield. To him, snipers were not meant to dart across maps firing from the hip. They were meant to hold positions, to wait patiently, to act with precision. Anything else, he argued, was not how the game was designed to be played. He called Hutch an amateur for this.
I called you an amateur sniper without actual sniper ideals or traits.
Now what do you think?
The audience, however, didn't take his side. Viewers saw his comments not as a principled stance, but as hypocrisy. They pointed to Jordie's own favorite strategy, camping. Camping in shooter culture is when a player picks a spot on the map, hunkers down, and waits for enemies to come to them instead of engaging actively. It is effective, yes, but it's also one of the most heavily criticized play styles in online gaming. Players hate it because it feels cheap and passive, as though that camper is refusing to truly compete. To many, camping ruins the flow of a match, turning a fast-paced contest into a tedious grind. And while Wings might have considered his approach strategic, viewers called it out as cowardly and boring. The irony was clear. Here was Jordie, dismissing Hutch's entertaining quickscopes as unrealistic, while relying on a strategy that frustrated nearly everyone else. And the backlash came quickly, but rather than escalate into a feud, the situation diffused in an unexpected way. Hutch, instead of retaliating, reached out to Wings. The two eventually sat down for a collaboration, and had a friendly debate about their different approaches to the game.
This is Hutch, bringing you a match of domination on Wasteland, but this is not my match. This is another person's match. Who do I got with me today?
Yo, it's your boy, Wings of Redemption.
Wow. That's quite an intro, buddy.
It was a surprising resolution, one that showcased how small and interconnected the YouTube gaming scene was in its early days. Even disagreements could turn into opportunities for collaboration and growth. For Wings of Redemption, it was both a lesson and a warning. His honesty and bluntness had already drawn attention, but it also highlighted the very traits that would follow him for the rest of his career. A tendency to speak his mind without filter, a belief that his way was the right way, and a willingness to challenge others even if it invited backlash. In some ways, this controversy marked the true beginning of his identity online. From the start, Wings was not going to be the polished, agreeable type. He was not there to entertain with flash or charm. He was there to assert himself, to carve out a space with his voice, and to do things his way. And while that approach brought him early success, it also planted the seeds for the conflicts that would define much of his career. Another example of Wings of Redemption's early controversies was his run-in with a group of gamers that were gaining notoriety at the time, who called themselves the Federation of Asshole Gamers, or FAG. This was a loosely organized collective that thrived on creating chaos, raiding online games, and bullying other players into submission. Their reputation spread quickly in the early Call of Duty community, and it was only a matter of time before Wings ended up in their sights. The conflict began not long after the infamous Hutch's Your Daddy incident, the argument that marked the start of Wings' reputation for being combative and defensive.
I did in that video was not camping in the least. I basically held down over half the map. Alright, I held down half the map and I was moving constantly. You do not have to be moving into new areas of the game, of the map, to not be camping. Seriously, even Seed Anner says that mess, you know. I mean, yeah, people will call me a fat nerd for that, but guess what? You'll just get your ass blocked. Straight up. And about people who tries to threaten me with unsubscribing. I don't give a I don't give a kid. Seriously. I will block you out of spare spite, because I know people that really enjoy my site would be willing to watch my video twice to get rid of your ass. Nobody wants your ass around here.
From then on, he became known as someone who would respond directly to criticism and negative comments, and often his responses were heated. For a group like FAG, who made a sport out of provoking reactions, this was the perfect target. Wings was exactly the type of person they wanted to harass, because they knew he would not ignore them, and instead would lash out publicly. At the center of FAG was Daniel Keem, better known as Keemstar. Even at this early stage of his career, Keemstar had a reputation for stirring up drama and escalating conflict. When another Call of Duty commentator named That Guy Who Camps informed Keem that Wings had been speaking negatively about him, the news spread quickly, and Keemstar decided to act. The group launched a mass harassment campaign against Wings, raiding his lobbies, spamming his content, and most damaging of all, engaging in what became known as false flagging. This meant mass reporting Wings' videos in an attempt to get them removed from YouTube, a devastating tactic at a time when creators relied on a few key uploads to grow their channels. Wings responded the way he usually did, by making videos addressing the situation directly. In one such upload, he asked the FAG members to stop false flagging his channel and pleaded for the harassment to end.
They're going to be trying to flag and thumbs down my videos, which in result will getting my account banned, and I'll have to go through the long, lengthy process of getting it back. To help protect my channel, if you could go and not subscribe to his live stream, but kind of go in the comment section and persuade people not to do this.
At the same time, he also urged his own viewers not to retaliate against them, warning that fighting fire with fire would only make things worse. He even asked his audience to try to convince the FAG members to leave his channel alone, a move that showed how desperate the situation had become.
I'm not telling you to flag his videos or anything, or his channel, because I'm already got footage of his channel threatening my personal space and my personal use, and I'm gonna try to send that to the administration department over at Blog TV and see if that gets done. But I'm not telling you to take any action. Let me get that point clear. But let's work and try to keep my channel live if possible. Thank you.
But the request had no effect. The attacks continued, and Wings remained under siege.
This request proved ineffectual, and the FAG was able to successfully abuse YouTube's automated systems, racking up over 30 strikes on his channel. Protected by Machinima.
Eventually, in an attempt to settle things, Wings arranged a call with Keemstar. At first, the conversation was surprisingly tame. Wings acted calm, almost innocent, as if he were trying to de-escalate. But as the call went on, the real issues surfaced. Keem accused Wings of weaponizing his fanbase, pointing out that FAG itself had been suffering from false flagging. He claimed that Wings had taken credit for taking them down, and suggested that Wings' audience was being used to retaliate against the group.
A comment that Wings wrote, he said, and I believe this is the correct quote, "Nick, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've already killed FAG." I don't understand why you wrote that comment, because our channel has been under attack. There's false copyright complaints on it to the point that it's suspended until YouTube reviews it. And now we have someone that's taking credit for killing our channel. I don't understand why you wrote that.
Rather than outright deny this, Wings responded by saying, "What did Keem expect? By attacking a much larger channel like his, retaliation was inevitable."
You should have seen that was going to come anyway. You attacked a channel that was 4 times your size.
The two seemed to reach a kind of uneasy truce, and by the end of the call, Wings himself described it as a ceasefire.
Any thoughts on our discussion here, Wings?
Yeah, I'll ceasefire.
But things did not end there. When the call was supposed to be over, Wings continued talking, unaware or perhaps careless of the fact that the recording was still running. He began asking Keemstar questions that revealed something far more concerning. Wings admitted that he had gathered personal information about Keemstar, including his P.O. box, his street address, and even the name of his girlfriend.
I'll run some stuff by you. Is your P.O. Box 148 Holland, New York 1408?
That's
0?
correct. That's correct.
Is your street address York 140809702?
That's incorrect. That's incorrect.
All right.
I don't give my personal where I live at. I don't give that out.
Is your girlfriend named Melissa R. Flack?
Yes, she is.
Is her phone number 7165?
At first, Keemstar seemed taken aback, asking why Wings had been digging into his private information. Wings tried to brush it off, claiming he just wanted to see how much of the information was correct. But then he admitted that he had looked into Keem's personal details intentionally and leaked them.
8263.
Okay, can I ask you why you're trying to get my personal information?
I'm just trying to see how much of this is correct, because I gave some of this information to Fisticuffs.
You gave my personal information to Fisticuffs?
When pressed further, Wings gave a response that shocked many. He joked that if Keem ever succeeded in taking his channel down, he might have to make a trip to New York.
What was the motivation behind this action?
This is, well, basically, I did some digging, and I tried to find everything I could find out about him in case he actually did drop my YouTube channel.
Alright. Well, this is a good example, though, Wings. Like,
I was going to take a trip up to New York.
The implication was clear, and Keemstar did not take it lightly. He shot back, saying he was not scared, that if Wings did come to New York, he would end up going back looking like a raccoon.
You might be going back looking like a raccoon.
Keem accused Wings of being a bully, but said that no matter what, he would always stand against him with his middle finger in the air.
That way he won't
do you know
be surprised.
How many people, do you know how many people threaten me a day? It's like, I know that you're a bully and that you get off on bullying people, but like I'm one person that is just going to constantly have that middle finger in the air. It's never going to go down. It's always going to be f you. No one is ever going to talk me into submission or anything. So whatever you're trying to do, just stop now.
The moment ended the conversation, but it set the tone for how their relationship would unfold in the years that followed, one filled with conflict, animosity, and repeated clashes. This entire saga not only damaged Wings' reputation, but also solidified his image as someone who could not ignore his critics. Every time he responded, every time he lashed out, it gave his detractors more ammunition to use against him. The feud with FAG and Keemstar became one of the defining controversies of his early career, a controversy that revealed both his unwillingness to back down and the dangers of his confrontational style. By the start of 2010, Wings of Redemption was no longer just another small creator in a growing sea of Call of Duty channels. His voice and consistency had begun to pay off. Just months into his YouTube career, he was approached by Machinima, a powerful and exclusive network at the time. Partnering with Machinima meant one thing above all else: money. Around this time, Jordie was also offered the chance to return to his old job at Metglass, the crane operator position that had once given him stability and solid pay, but he declined. To him, going back would have been a step backward, a retreat into the very life he was trying to escape. Jordie chose to double down on content creation, determined to make it his future. For the first time, Wings could begin earning revenue from his videos, transforming what had once been a pastime into something that resembled a career. It was validation, not only that his content had value, but that he, a gamer from South Carolina with no college degree and a history of short-lived jobs, could finally make something of himself. The numbers reflected it. Within just 4 months of signing on, Wings' channel had skyrocketed to over 45,000 subscribers. For early YouTube, this was no small achievement. It put him firmly in the conversation with the biggest names in the Call of Duty community. During this time, Wings also began collaborating with other creators, most notably WoodysGamertag and Kyle, who would later rise to fame under the persona FPSRussia. The three first connected casually over Skype calls, but their chemistry quickly stood out. After a few collaborations, they made the decision to create something more permanent together: a podcast. The show, titled Painkiller Already, better known simply as PKA, started out as pre-recorded discussions between the trio. Before long, however, they shifted to live streaming the episodes on Justin.tv, the platform that would later become Twitch. And from there, the format found its rhythm. It wasn't just about gaming anymore. They talked about everything: current events, relationships, outrageous hypothetical questions, even deeply personal aspects of their own lives. Each week a different guest would join in, but the real draw was the dynamic between the hosts themselves. For Wings, the podcast was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it massively expanded his reach, introducing him to audiences who might never have found his YouTube channel otherwise. On the other, it opened the door for the world to see him unfiltered, and sometimes that honesty worked against him. Through PKA, we learned things about Wings that would become defining parts of his online identity. He openly talked about his struggles with weight, including his early discussions of weight loss surgery, and even mentioned experimenting with things like B12 shots to try and boost his metabolism.
I have 46 weapons, and some of them are fully automatic.
Well, mine are to shoot the cats that come in the backyard, but I didn't really want to.
Mine are too.
He also admitted to bouts of uncontrolled anger, casually recalling how he had smashed televisions, broken multiple controllers, and even destroyed a handgun during fits of rage.
That was my rage story. But Wings, you're clearly going to win this.
18 PS3 controllers, 3 Xbox controllers, 2 TVs, 1 keyboard, 1 handgun.
And then there was perhaps the most unsettling revelation of all. Wings owned an arsenal of 46 firearms, something that surprised and concerned many of the viewers.
You know that, well, everybody knows that you've been considering, is it laparoscopic surgery? I have that wrong. Lap band surgery. Thank you. Lap band surgery.
What I'm doing right now is I'm on a low-carb diet where I basically eat like a lot of eggs, chicken, and meat. But I'm going to the doctor Saturday. His name's Dr. Norman, and he's here in Myrtle Beach. And I'm basically going to be given what you call a V12 shot. And what it is a shot they put into your stomach. It's a big old long needle. Nice. And it increases your metabolism. And there's a set of pills that go on there and just, you kind of keep, like, perks you up and keeps your metabolism going, keeps your heart rate up.
That winning 46 firearms might have sounded impressive on the surface, but to many viewers it painted a far more troubling picture. Who really needs that many weapons? Especially when you are not a collector by trade or a professional marksman. We're all for self-defense, but this many weapons seems like overkill. For Wings, it seemed less about practicality and more about control, a way of compensating for feelings he could never quite shake. The fear of being powerless, of being exposed, had been with him since childhood. Growing up in poverty, bullied for his appearance, shot in the leg as a teenager, all of these experiences left a scar that never faded. The guns, then, were not just tools. They were symbols of security, a reassurance that he would never again be at the mercy of the world around him. But just like his struggles with weight, his tendency to lash out, or his endless comparisons to others, the arsenal revealed something fragile beneath the surface. It was not strength, it was not confidence, it was protection layered over insecurity. Every weapon was another reminder that Jordie was still fighting a battle with himself, one that no amount of firepower could truly win. In time, that same need to defend himself would appear in different forms, from his excuses in competition to the way he clashed with viewers online. The guns were only the beginning, an early glimpse of the insecurities that would haunt Wings of Redemption for the rest of his public life. In many ways, PKA became the stage where Wings' contradictions played out. He could be funny, relatable, and thoughtful one moment, then volatile, bitter, or insecure the next.
On the other hand, like, there's a Wings that that subs don't get to see all that much. Like, that guy that reads poetry in his commentary, that guy that has deeper thoughts and a sensitive side, he's there too, and I get to see him, and sometimes the subs don't. And recently it's been changed, but there was that, like, phase he had where I guess he and his subs had conflict for, like, whatever, 50 videos, 100 videos in a row, and a lot of guys are stuck on that Wings, but there's more to him.
And while this unpredictability drew attention, it also planted the seeds for the controversies and conflicts that would define much of his career. Looking back, the stories Wings shared on PKA were not just entertaining anecdotes, they were warnings. Each confession, from his struggles with food, to his explosive temper, to the strange comfort he took in owning dozens of firearms, painted a picture of someone constantly at war with himself. At times he seemed self-aware, admitting his flaws openly, but self-awareness is not the same as change. That was the contradiction at the heart of a Wings of Redemption. He could admit his weaknesses, yet when confronted with them in real time, his instinct was always to lash out, to protect the fragile image he had built. And nowhere was this clearer than in the infamous Syndicate match. Everything he had revealed on the podcast, his volatility, his defensiveness, his deep need to be seen as great, had all come boiling to the surface during that one-on-one game. The meltdown that followed was not an isolated moment. It was the perfect storm of everything the Wings had already shown the world, captured live, and amplified by the unforgiving lens of the internet. And this wasn't the end of it either. The public outburst might have been embarrassing enough, but what came after, according to Woody, was even more startling. Years later, Woody revealed that once the stream had ended, Wings' anger didn't cool off. It got worse. Behind the scenes, Wings went ballistic, directing his fury not at himself, not even at Woody, but at Syndicate. He allegedly threatened Syndicate's life, saying things along the lines of breaking his teeth in with a magazine and other violent remarks.
I try to change the topic and play 1v1 against a different guy. Let's just put that in the past and move on. He doesn't want that. He wants to end the stream, so we do. After the stream ends, he's continually threatening this guy. He says he's going to break his teeth out with a mag light, that if he was there, he would kill him. And he goes
Syndicate, for his part, didn't take the bait. He stayed calm, almost detached, brushing it off with a kind of, yeah, sure, whatever attitude.
Nuts on it. And Tom, on the other hand, is also known as Syndicate, is just being cool about the whole thing. Look, man, you win some, you lose some. Don't make too big a deal out of it.
The contrast was striking. On one side, you had Wings, humiliated and seething, struggling to process the loss he had insisted on making public. On the other, Syndicate, unfazed, unwilling to let the tantrum rattle him. But the story didn't stop there either. Despite the meltdown, despite the threats, a rematch between Wings and Syndicate was arranged, and that second encounter, while less infamous than the first, would prove just as telling in its own way. On August 27, 2011, Wings of Redemption and Syndicate once again crossed paths, this time not in a live match, but in a series of private text messages. The idea of a rematch had been floated, with someone even offering to put up a prize of $5,000 for the winner. Despite all the hostility and disrespect Wings had shown during their last encounter, Syndicate was willing to bury the hatchet and entertain the idea of playing again. But then Wings made a move that shocked everyone. Instead of simply agreeing to the rematch, he asked Syndicate to throw the match. The proposal was straightforward. If Syndicate deliberately lost, they could split the money.
You guys, we'll put, I forget what it was, $5,000 on the line, and then winner take all. And Wings came to him and said, look, we'll do this. We'll do a 1v1. You throw it. Look, I'm going to win anyway because I'm Wings of Redemption. But you throw it just to lock that in. And then I'll keep, I think, what did he want the split to be? It was to his...
See, that's the best part. Wings would keep the lion's share and get the victory.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not how a bribe works.
That's not how bribes work.
Wings justified the request by saying he would win anyway, framing it as an easy way for both of them to profit while burying the hatchet. He even admitted that he didn't make $2,500 a day and needed to provide for his girlfriend at the time, a woman named Shalene, whom he had met on a dating site called Plenty of Fish, and her 2 children. The reasoning raised obvious questions. If Wings were so confident he would win regardless, why ask Syndicate to lose on purpose? To many, it revealed something deeper. As his friend Woody would later explain, Wings tied almost all of his self-worth to gaming. He had little else in his life he felt proud of. His weight, his financial struggles, and his frequent meltdowns often left him mocked, memed, and dismissed. Gaming and YouTube were the only areas where he could still see himself as successful, and that desperation seeped into moments like this.
Why is he getting so... I guess this would be my mindset. You said this guy's really good, top of the rank, right?
At zombies.
Zombies, yeah.
But I mean, so he just the game in general, then he would be proficient at, I would imagine. So
sure.
Yeah.
If you're going against somebody like that and you lose, you'd be like, okay, well, I lost. Maybe you talk a little bit of shit, but you'd be like, well, the guy's good, right? I got a loss. I got a loss.
Wings thinks he's
You would
great.
think so.
Wings is self-appreciation is out of this world. He legit thought for a while that he was better than all the pro gamers, that he was better at quickscoping than the quickscopers, better at zombies than the zombies guy, better anyone at everything. He plays all his games on hard mode, right? As if that was some sort of qualification to be an outstanding gamer. So he was surprised that the #1 zombie player on the planet was better than him. He didn't see that coming. And you say, why is he making such a big deal out of a loss? You also have to recognize, and maybe you do, that it's not just a game to him. This is his living. This is his sense of self-worth. This is being good at games is not just his finances, but who he is. That's as a man, he is a dominant gamer.
Unfortunately for Wings, his attempt to fix the match did not stay private. Syndicate leaked the messages on Twitter, exposing the bribe attempt to the public. What might have been a chance at redemption instead turned into another scandal, further damaging his reputation. Before this, while Wings had already been trolled for his meltdowns, his blaming of teammates, and his defensive style of camping, he still carried a certain level of respect in the Call of Duty community. He had even done good things, like raising $10,000 for a young girl with cerebral palsy, personally donating $2,000 out of his own pocket to make it happen. But after the Syndicate DMs went public, things shifted. The trolls had more reasons, the respect he had earned began to erode, and the image of Wings of Redemption as a sore loser was replaced by something worse. Someone willing to cheat, even bribe, to protect the fragile identity he had built as a dominant gamer. Looking back, the Syndicate saga was more than just an embarrassing episode. It was the first and most pivotal turning point in Wings of Redemption's reputation. Before this, he had been seen as a talented Call of Duty player with a growing channel, a podcaster with opinions, and even someone capable of rallying his audience for good causes. But after this, the perception shifted. The meltdown during the live match, the violent threats behind the scenes, and the leaked attempt to bribe Syndicate all combined to create a new image of Wings, volatile, insecure, and willing to cut corners to protect his pride. But despite the hate and the setbacks, Wings kept making videos. He continued to upload regularly, but by this point, the YouTube space was evolving rapidly. New creators were entering the scene with flashier edits, higher production value, and more entertaining personalities. By comparison, Wings' content, though it had seen some small upgrades, remained largely the same as it had been in 2009. His straightforward commentaries and simple gameplay no longer stood out. As a result, his subscriber count stagnated at around 400,000, and his views began to steadily decline. To make matters worse, his personal life was unraveling as well. Shalane, the woman he had been dating and whose children he had helped take care of, left him. For Wings, who had invested so much of his time and resources into that relationship, the breakup was a heavy blow.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Wings of Redemption, and this is another one of the videos. Not very hype, but I got some very important news and channel updates here for you today. For those of you who know, I've been dating a girl named Shalane for about a year now, and today I kind of decided for a huge life change. I actually asked her to move out of the house again.
Still, he managed to bounce back temporarily when he began dating another woman named Brandy, whom he also met through plenty of fish. For a brief moment, things seemed to stabilize. Professionally, Wings attempted to revitalize his channel by putting together a special video to celebrate reaching 100 million total views. He spent days editing and preparing it, hoping it would reignite interest in his content, but the video failed to land. It lacked the spark that audiences had come to expect from the evolving YouTube landscape, and its underwhelming reception devastated him.
Was his 100 million total views celebration video. It would take him 3 days of editing to put this together, but due to its poor editing and failure to portray a clear narrative, it would well underperform.
In a now deleted tweet, Wings was seen threatening another creator online. This all came shortly after his 100 million views. Special video flopped, failing to draw in more attention than his regular uploads. Wings had poured days of work into the project, and when it didn't perform, the disappointment hit him hard. Feeling dejected, he turned to Twitter, where he posted about suicide. The reaction from the community was swift and unforgiving. Instead of offering sympathy, many accused Wings of using suicide threats as a ploy for attention, claiming he was only doing it because his video hadn't gotten the views he wanted. And this was partly on Wings, because from what we have found, he was blaming it all on the fact that since his views were low, he wouldn't be able to make much money off this video, and he was already in a bad financial situation. Among those who called him out was fellow content creator El Prezador, who openly criticized Wings for his behavior. That's when Wings made things even worse. In another now-deleted tweet, he directly threatened El Prezador's life, writing, "I've got a lot of guns, El Prezador, and if I decide to kill myself, I'm taking you with me." It was an outrageous escalation, a death threat directed at another content creator, stemming from nothing more than frustration over YouTube numbers. El Prezador, understandably, did not take kindly to the message. For Wings, the incident became yet another example of how his insecurities and volatility constantly boiled over in public. During all of this drama, another familiar figure entered the picture, Keemstar. Wings and Keem already had history, and Keem used the moment to his advantage. Drama was, and still is, his bread and butter. By involving himself, he saw an opportunity to capitalize on Wings' latest controversy, while also reviving old tensions. That Keem managed to bring all of the key players into one place, his podcast. On the panel was Keemstar himself, fellow commentator White Boy 7th Street, and a user known as Extra Ranker. Later, El Presador, the same creator Wings had threatened, would join in as well. Wings appeared too, this time backed by Woody, one of his closest friends, and at that point, one of the few people willing to publicly defend him. What followed wasn't just a discussion, it was a public spectacle. With so many of Wings' rivals in the same space, and with Keem at the helm steering the conversation toward conflict, it quickly became less about resolution and more about exposure, at least at first. As the podcast began, neither Wings of Redemption or El Presador had joined the call yet. Keemstar, acting as the host, brought in other commentators such as Whiteboy 7th Street and Extra Ranker to get the conversation started. Almost immediately the discussion turned toward Wings and his recent meltdown online. Whiteboy was the first to voice his opinion. He said that while he respected Wings as a creator, faking suicide threats because a video did not receive enough views was unacceptable behavior. He compared Wings' actions to those of an emotional teenager, someone acting like an emo 13-year-old, as he put it.
Right. He did it for attention. That's what a 13-year-old emo chick does. I care about Wings. I like Wings, and I'm sure all the viewers do as well. I can relate to him. I have a personal relationship with him. I can feel him. I can understand him. Mm-hmm. And that's why I got away with so much stuff. But faking it, crying wolf, I lost it.
Duranker built on that criticism, pointing out that all he had ever heard from Wings was constant complaining. In his view, Wings was ungrateful because he had what many would consider a dream job, and yet continued to act like it was not enough. These comments created an atmosphere of tension, even before Wings had the chance to join the call.
I respect what Wings does, don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on him. I'm just saying all he ever does is complain.
When Wings finally entered, he came in already defensive. He immediately confronted both Whiteboy and Duranker, asking why they had spoken about him before he could defend himself. His anger quickly zeroed in on Duranker. Wings belittled his job, claiming it was easy and not something to be proud of.
I told you what it is. You're a production supervisor. You walk around with your hands in your pockets. You probably turned a wrench in 8 years, and you want to sit there and talk about gall of working hard. So you have a cake job. Your job is cake. What you do is you hold your hands in your pocket. You wait till the safety meeting in the morning so you can suck up to some big wigs. Then you go home and you drink your Miller Lite, what it sounds like you're doing.
He attacked Duranker's income, boasting that he made more money in a single day than Duranker made in an entire week.
No, actually, I'm on my phone. I'm actually at work because I have a job. Anyway,
actually at work because you have a job. You know what? I did your job for 5 years. And you know what? I make more money now than I did at that job in one day of the week than I did.
Wings, and that's what I'm saying. You make a lot of money, but all you do is
But
complain.
the fact is...
To Wings, hard labor or low-paying work was not a sign of resilience or dedication, but of failure. He accused people who did such jobs of having made mistakes in their lives rather than being hard-working individuals.
Manual labor.
No. You're making it seem like I've never worked a real job before. The reason that I have worked a real job is the reason I don't want to work a real job again. It doesn't matter if it's labor or back-breaking work. If I see a person digging a ditch, you know what I don't think? That's a hard worker. I think that's somebody that f***ed up in his life.
After shutting down Duranker with that tirade, Wings turned his attention toward Whiteboy. His temper continued to flare as he hurled insult after insult, trying to undermine Whiteboy's credibility and status. At one point, Wings threatened to expose Whiteboy's earnings, claiming that he could reveal exactly how much money Whiteboy was making on YouTube.
You're real close to me just telling you what you actually make.
That's not anybody's business what people make, though, Wings.
I know what he makes. His contract can't be much different from mine.
Woody, who was in the call as both a co-host and a friend of Wings, tried to calm him down, but Wings refused to let the matter go. Wings insisted that Whiteboy's accusations were absurd. If he had truly wanted to profit from a suicide story, he argued, then he would have made a YouTube video about it where the ad revenue and clicks would have paid off.
He's calling me a view whore when he said himself I'd get like 1,000 views. You're a dumbass, dude. I don't do that for views. If I did that for views, I would do it on my YouTube channel. Why don't you take your one-eyed ass?
Instead, his tweet had been an emotional response, not a calculated grab for money. His tone, however, was not measured. It was aggressive, harsh, and cutting. He mocked Whiteboy as a dropout who wasted time with drugs and told him to start thinking like an adult rather than a careless teenager.
Why don't you take your one-eyed ass and learn something? Quit smoking pot. Quit being a high school dropout.
Whiteboy defended himself, unwilling to back down in the face of the Wings' rage. He argued that faking suicide, even if only for attention or out of frustration, had real consequences. It was not something that could be dismissed as a bad day or a mistake. He reminded Wings that his platform carried influence, and that actions like his could have ramifications on fans and the wider community.
suicide. Do you not understand the gravity of the situation? You faked the suicide for views. Your raw instinct.
The heated exchange escalated to the point that Wings could no longer contain himself. In a fit of anger, he left his computer and stormed out of the room, leaving the rest of the call to continue without him. It was an embarrassing moment for him and for Woody, who found himself trying to pick up the pieces in the aftermath.
You faked the suicide for views. Your raw instinct.
After Jordie returned,
once Woody joined the call fully, he attempted to reframe the situation. As one of Wings' closest friends at the time, he felt an obligation to defend him, or at least to provide context that might soften the blow. Woody explained that Wings was not trying to fake suicide for attention. Instead, he painted Wings as someone who thought in the short term and often reacted emotionally when things did not go his way. The failed video had left him hurt and disappointed, and rather than processing it quietly, Wings had turned to Twitter in a moment of weakness. Woody argued that this was not a ploy or manipulation, but simply a man letting his emotions spill into the public eye.
Wings, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
All right, so when I was watching the Twitter feed unfold, like this is how it played in my own head. I saw, you upset, and I know you, right? You're a guy who thinks a little bit short term. When cash comes in the bank, you feel wealthy. When the bills roll in, you feel broke. When the views are high, you feel, if you have a good day view-wise, you feel like things are awesome. If you have a single bad day view-wise, you worry that the world is crashing. So I watched you on YouTube and I thought, you know what? He's not joking or putting on a suicide hoax. He's just a guy who has extreme feelings and expresses, like, there's no sort of long-term, moderation filter on there. Now, if I get 700,000 views today and 30,000 views tomorrow, I feel like I got 730,000 views over 2 days. You feel like, oh my gosh, my channel crashed today. The world is ending.
For some listeners, Woody's explanation was sympathetic and humanizing, a reminder that creators are people who sometimes falter under pressure. For others, it sounded like excuse-making, for someone who repeatedly refused to take responsibility for his behavior. What could not be ignored, however, was that the incident had added yet another layer of controversy to Wings' already fragile reputation. Wings would later rejoin the call, but the tone shifted noticeably. Instead of lashing out, he opened up to Keemstar in a moment of raw honesty. He admitted that he wasn't happy with his life, that he felt stuck, going nowhere, and that the constant barrage of trolling from people like El Presidor left him feeling genuinely depressed.
Because El Presidor is one of the main instigators of my frustration. Like, generally, when I'm feeling bad, he's the person there to try to kick you when you're down.
Why don't you get that he's just a troll?
White Boy, who had been critical earlier, showed a bit of empathy. He told Wings not to let the trolls get to him, because every time he reacted, he was giving them exactly what they wanted. Wings agreed that he understood this in theory, but in practice he couldn't help himself. He said he knew he was feeding the trolls, but when the insults piled up, he always crashed out.
And he says he's trolling you while he's doing it, and you still bite into it. You're feeding him, Wings. You're feeding the troll.
I understand that.
Then why don't you just stop?
Because it's not built into me to stop.
Keemstar, in an unexpected twist, actually tried to motivate him. He told Wings to focus on what he had rather than what he lacked. The fact that people like El Presidor were trying to use his name for clout, Keem argued, only proved that Wings was a big deal. He reminded him that he was respected as one of the pioneers of the Call of Duty commentary scene, and that people still valued him for helping build the community.
What do I have?
Wings, think about what you just said. You said that you have El Presidor trying to get big off of you. Now, do you really believe that? Do you really believe that?
El Presidor's a leech.
No, but what I'm saying is, if El Presidor is really just trying to get big off you, that is an awesome thing. That's a compliment.
It's not an awesome thing. It hits you all at once, dude. Have you ever... Well, you probably have.
You gotta look at it glass half full, glass half empty. You have so much, and people in this community, look up to you. All right? They do. They do. People in the community actually look up to Wings. Wings has been around for forever. And as much as people battle with you, people do respect you. And admire you. Look at how many people tune into PKA. No offense to Woody, but if you were out of it, it'd be probably like half the people there.
El Presidor joined the call soon after. He was still furious over the death threat and immediately clapped back at Wings' earlier comments about him leeching for views.
Still intent on calling the FBI.
Yeah, but you're too lazy, and I also know that.
Their back and forth was heated, but eventually they agreed to let it go publicly, sweeping the conflict under the rug.
In the end, however, the drama was resolved.
So, Wings, El Presador, this is a breakthrough moment. El Presador said, let's sweep it under the rug. What do you think, Wings?
But it was what Wings said afterward that painted the clearest picture of his mental state. He admitted that YouTube itself was the root of his depression. Whenever he was offline, he felt miserable, weighed down by the constant harassment, the hate, and the endless stream of out-of-context clips that trolls used against him. Yet he couldn't quit, not just because it paid more than a normal job, but because it had become his entire identity. To him, leaving YouTube would mean going back to being a nobody in real life, and he couldn't bear that thought. Gaming and YouTube had defined his self-worth since the beginning of his career. And now, with his channel stagnating and views dropping, he felt trapped in a cycle of misery.
Depression? Can we say that?
I'm not really depressed, though. I mean, as soon as I leave this room, I'm happy. As soon as I forget all of this, I'm happy. That's why I said beforehand, when I was a little more upset, that I know what I need to do. What I need to do is quit YouTube and move on with my life. But at the same time, this is the high point so far in my life. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be the only high point in my life. It's hard to walk away from having access to 50,000 people. It's hard to walk away from, you know, basically being able to get advice at any time of the day, any day of the week. It's hard to walk away from, you know, being somebody of importance to going back into a world where you're nobody.
Keemstar even offered him advice on how to revive his content. He pointed out that Wings had been making essentially the same style of videos since he started, while many other commentary YouTubers had evolved, experimented, and worn different hats to keep things fresh. If Wings wanted to feel better about himself and have success again, Keem said, he needed to adapt, change things up, diversify, and break out of the rut that was dragging him down.
I've had so many different hats that I've put on, where you, Wings, you've kind of just been the same guy for like 5 years. You know what I mean? Maybe it's time to reinvent yourself, and the reason why I say this,
don't change, but reinvent yourself.
Yeah, because you uploaded the video and you were like, I don't know what to do with my channel anymore. Like if I get into drama, you know, I get views, but if I just upload a gameplay, I only get 10,000. So maybe there needs to be a Wings talk show. Maybe there needs to be a Wings in real life thing. Maybe there needs to be something different, like reinvent yourself, you know?
But here's the tragedy. While the advice was solid, adapting wasn't something Wings was good at. He was stubborn, set in his ways, and afraid of failure. The same insecurity that pushed him to lash out at trolls also kept him from evolving as a creator. In his mind, change was a risk, and risks were terrifying when your entire sense of self depended on holding on to the little success you had left. This moment on Keemstar's podcast exposed everything. Wings' depression, his fragile self-worth, his unwillingness to adapt, and his toxic relationship with the very platform that gave him purpose. It wasn't just a moment of drama, it was a glimpse into the cycle that would follow him for years. Bursts of hope, crashes of anger, attempts to rebuild, and the inevitable spiral back down. It showed that for Wings of Redemption, the real battle wasn't against trolls or fellow creators, it was against himself. After the podcast, Wings tried to settle back into his routine. He continued uploading his usual Call of Duty commentaries, but began mixing in a few more vlogs. For a short while, these vlogs helped bring some life back to his channel. They gave fans a glimpse into his personal world, something a little different from the endless gameplay. But the momentum didn't last long. By January of 2013, disaster struck again, this time hitting him where it hurt most. His income. Machinima, the network that had been Wings' lifeline, suddenly dropped him. For years, Machinima was one of the biggest names in the YouTube gaming scene, providing partnerships and revenue to thousands of creators. But Wings had been in their red zone for quite some time. His views weren't performing the way they once did, and promises he made to Machinima, whether about output, growth, or consistency, had gone unfulfilled. Eventually, they cut ties.
I made a few decisions in my life that really crippled me when they dropped me, because I had like a 3-year contract with Machinima. I signed one, and under the premise of me signing a 3-year contract, I bought things and made obligations that I normally otherwise would not have. So basically my channel's not doing very well. I've been going into the red for February, March, April, May, June, 5 months now. And when I got that week off, it kind of like kick-started a lazy bug in me. And when you start getting lazy, you start laying down, you start sleeping more, you start getting depressed, you start realizing how fat you are, and then being fat depresses you, and that makes you want to eat. When you eat, you feel depressed. It's just the constant cycle of being a failure.
For Wings, this was catastrophic. YouTube was his only real source of income, and without Machinima, he was left scrambling. Rather than partner with YouTube directly, Wings signed with another network, Fullscreen TV, but the deal was far less lucrative. He went from making solid money with Machinima to scraping by with a contract that offered significantly lower pay. Overnight, his financial stability was gutted, and it couldn't have come at a worse time. Adding to the pressure, Wings suffered yet another breakup. In a now-deleted video, he admitted that his relationship had ended, and he was left not only alone, but in financial ruin. He confessed that he was broke, unable to afford even something as simple as taking someone out for dinner.
And I can't afford to go get another girlfriend because I can't afford to take people out right now because I'm pretty much making no money. Every month's the red.
For a man who had already tied so much of his self-worth to his channel, this was another blow to his confidence and his sense of direction. His uploads began to slow. Where he had once been consistent, pushing out content to keep the algorithm on his side, now he barely uploaded. His channel had stagnated, sitting stubbornly at around 400,000 subscribers, and the view counts were a shadow of what they once were. His audience was moving on, but Wings wasn't. He also became more vocal about his growing disillusionment with content creation. On multiple occasions, he vented that he didn't even feel like making Call of Duty videos anymore, but continued anyway because he needed the money. It was no longer about passion, no longer about proving himself, it was survival. And in many ways, that lack of motivation bled into the videos themselves. The gameplay and commentary felt tired, recycled, and uninspired, a reflection of how Wings himself was feeling. This was the state Wings of Redemption found himself in during 2013. Financially strained, emotionally drained, stuck in a creative rut, and unsure of how to move forward. What had once been his escape had become his prison. Seeing the downward spiral Wings was on, his longtime friend and co-host of the Painkiller Already podcast, Kyle, decided to step in. Kyle came up with an idea that could potentially save both Wings' health and his career. A weight loss challenge. The proposal was simple but ambitious. Wings would move in with Kyle for a month, lose 50 pounds under his guidance, and turn the entire process into a YouTube series. Kyle promised to handle the editing and production, leaving Wings to focus entirely on working out and changing his lifestyle.
One episode, I threw this at Wings because, you know, he was bemoaning his
station in life.
Sure, and I said, look, man, come to my house. We'll do a month-long boot camp. We'll get the fans behind it. We'll do a Kickstarter to get you like fitness gear, supplies. You know, we'll film the entire thing. We'll make posters. We'll make coffee mugs. We'll get like a big viewership. Not only will this revive your body, it'll revive your YouTube channel. This will be amazing. Come to my house. I'll take a month out of my schedule. I will devote it to you. We'll do this thing together. It'll be fun. I sort of half-heartedly meant it. I didn't really expect him to ever say yes because of all the things that we told you so far. You know, he doesn't get out of his bubble too much. And then the man said yes.
For Wings, the idea was intimidating. He openly admitted that he was a homebody, uncomfortable with change, and nervous about putting himself in such a vulnerable position.
It's a really big change in life, and it's a change that kind of makes you feel better about yourself.
But at the same time, he knew something had to give. His weight had been a point of mockery, insecurity, and struggle for years. His YouTube channel was dying, his personal life was collapsing, and his mental health was deteriorating. So, on October 13th, 2013, Wings took the leap and traveled to Kyle's house to begin what would become one of the most pivotal experiments of his career. As heck, Kyle even went as far as remodeling parts of his house to accommodate Wings' size, including adjustments to the bathroom.
And so that night I was taking a shower in my shower after the show, and I was washing my hair, and I bumped my elbow on the shower wall, and I was like, God, the shower is a little narrow. And then it occurred to me, Wings of Redemption could not fit into my shower. And if he was going to live with me, we would have to put in a new shower. So construction began the next day on a $5,000 shower. we tore.
This gesture showed just how invested Kyle was in giving them Wings every possible chance at success. Soon the workout vlogs began rolling out on Wings' channel, and to everyone's surprise, they performed exceptionally well. For the first time in a long while, Wings' audience was engaged and excited. The series also forced Wings to open up more about his struggles with weight and self-perception. In one of his vlogs, he reflected on how he used to think he was overweight when he was around 300 pounds, a number that seems small compared to where he was now.
I was kind of disappointed in myself how I wasn't as strong as I remember myself being. But I guess that's the way most things happen, is you always feel like you were better at a certain point. Like I find myself remembering, thinking back to when I used to be like 330 pounds, and back then I thought I was really, really heavy, and like now I'd kill to be 330. Like, oh Lord, that's 110 pounds, you know, and that's exactly what it is at this point. It's 110 pounds, and there's really nothing you can, really nothing that you can do about it, but...
These raw, personal insights gave viewers a glimpse into his insecurities and vulnerabilities, and the overwhelming support he received online became one of his driving motivators. Even better, the physical results were real. In the very first week of the challenge, Wings lost an impressive 25 pounds. He credited his audience's encouragement as the reason he was able to push through the initial discomfort and fatigue. For once, both the numbers on the scale and the numbers on YouTube were moving in the right direction. But in classic Wings fashion, the momentum didn't last. Despite the progress, he soon began to feel like he had hit a plateau. Frustration set in, and he started voicing doubts about continuing. This baffled not only his viewers, but also his friends, who had invested time, effort, and energy into helping him succeed. Kyle had gone out of his way to make this possible, and the community was rallying behind him. Yet Wings was already talking about giving up. It all came to a head during an episode of Painkiller Already, where his co-host staged a kind of intervention. They reminded him that his channel was finally doing well again, that he had more support than ever, and that this was a rare opportunity to turn his life around.
We've got all these people here trying to help you, Wings. We're smashing our heads.
We're working on hour 2 of you telling me the same thing.
Well, when are you going to get it in your dumbass skull that we are trying to help you? There are tens of thousands of people out there that are rooting for you, and all you can do is sit there and say, can't be bothered.
To their credit, they weren't wrong. Wings had a genuinely solid support system at this time. After some convincing, Wings agreed to stick with the challenge, and by the end of the month, he managed to lose a respectable amount of weight, even if he fell short of the original 50-pound goal. After the fact, Kyle spoke candidly about what it was like living with Wings during this experiment, and his recollections weren't flattering. He described the month as one of the worst periods of his life, painting Wings as a reclusive and socially awkward houseguest. Kyle claimed that Wings often isolated himself, staying in his own bubble, and seemed to lack awareness of basic social etiquette. In one infamous story, Kyle revealed that Wings would leave the bathroom door open even while using it, despite Kyle's roommate and girlfriend being present in the house.
Living with him outside of the workout was one of the most horrible ordeals of my life. That month was one of the worst months of my life because Wings lives within his own bubble. He doesn't socialize, and so he doesn't curtail himself to social norms. Right away, myself, my roommate Kitty, and my girlfriend were in my kitchen, and the bathroom is visible from the kitchen. And we hear this noise of water flowing into more water. And we all look up ponderously, and the bathroom door is agape, and Wings is pissing. And we can see most of him. I couldn't see the penis, nor could he. But he was pissing. And we all and we were all just in shock. And finally my roommate Kitty yelled, "Close the goddamn door! You're pissing with the door open!" She's British, if you can't tell. And we all just bust out laughing. Like, can you believe that? He's like, what? What's the big deal? You know, just taking a piss. And they're like, oh.
It was moments like these that highlighted just how out of touch Wings could be when it came to living with others, further fueling the reputation that he was difficult to be around. The weight loss challenge was a bittersweet chapter in Wings of Redemption's history. On one hand, it showed that with structure, support, and accountability, he could make progress, both physically and creatively. His fans were re-engaged, his channel got a much-needed boost, and for once, people were rooting for him instead of trolling him. On the other hand, it also revealed the deeper patterns that plagued him. His tendency to quit when things got tough, his inability to fully appreciate the help being offered, and the awkward personal habits that strained his relationships. After returning home from Kyle's, Wings actually surprised a lot of people by continuing some of the progress he had made. He went on regular walks to maintain his weight and even hired a personal trainer named Drew.
You put up some decent weight, considering we just got started, you haven't done this in a while. But the endurance there.
He doesn't want to embarrass me. I did 12 reps of 100, and then I went straight to 15 pounds, and I struggled.
Drew occasionally appeared on Wings' channel, and the two quickly became close. Unlike Kyle, Drew had real training knowledge and discipline, and he was able to give Wings the structure and expertise that he desperately needed. For a time, Drew acted as both a trainer and a friend, someone who kept Wings accountable while still encouraging him through the struggles. It worked, at least temporarily. Wings kept up with the routines and showed genuine improvement, not just physically, but mentally as well. Viewers began to notice the difference. While he was still mocked and trolled by many in the broader YouTube community, a surprising number of fans started to come back around, acknowledging that he was at least trying. He was making some attempts to change his content, to address his health, and to take his life in a new direction. For once, the narrative around Wings seemed to be shifting toward positivity. Even if other creators were still critical, he had one major advantage: the support of his PKA friends. Woody and Kyle defended him publicly and encouraged him to keep going. The podcast remained a safe space where he could vent, joke, and be part of something bigger. In many ways, PKA was the glue that kept him afloat during this stage of his career. But with Wings of Redemption, stability never lasts long. In 2014, during a regular PKA episode, the group stumbled into a conversation about survival shows and survival video games. This casual talk sparked a bold idea. Why not plan their own real-life survival trip? A full 5 days in the wilderness, bringing only the essentials, living off the land as best they could. It would be a fun challenge, something new for the podcast, and great content to share with the community.
It's into April or something. And Factions Fire, if you guys are interested, if you're watching this weekend, next weekend it resets. So, and then I was like, I'm just going to make this happen. And I decided about my own rules, right? We were like going all over, and I was like, let's bring lots of ammo and tools and stuff like that. And then Kyle was like, let's bring a match and a banana hammock, a Speedo, and we'll see what goes on. And I was like, I'm just going to go. I'm going to define this thing. I'm going to invite you guys. And if you come, you come. If you don't, I run solo.
Initially, the plan included all 4 co-hosts: Kyle, Woody, Wings, and Lefty. But Lefty quickly opted out, saying he wouldn't be available for the trip.
At the wrong opportunity, but I am going to have to remove my hat from this. I don't even remember tossing my hat in the ring. I think it was just forcibly put there by everybody else.
Instead of just letting it go, Wings took the opportunity to clown him. He mocked Lefty relentlessly, joking that if he didn't want to come along, maybe he could just stay back and clean the guns, playing into the idea that Lefty wasn't tough enough for the outdoors anyway.
I don't have outdoors experience, and on top of that, I don't understand survival. And on top of that, I've never shot a gun before, and I don't know what I'm doing.
You don't have to shoot guns. You can clean it.
That left the survival roster down to 3, Woody, Kyle, and Wings. From the beginning, Woody and Kyle were all in. They started buying gear, planning strategies, and building hype for the trip. Both of them uploaded videos showing off their survival kits, walking viewers through the food, tools, and supplies they were bringing.
The attendants will begin making videos to hype up the survival trip and bring more exposure to it. They would present the gear they were going to bring and explain its uses, as well as showcasing the talents and techniques they had picked up in preparation for the trip. But when it came to Wings,
the energy was contagious. Fans were excited to see how these internet personalities would handle a real-world challenge. Wings, however, didn't match that enthusiasm. When he finally uploaded his own video, the difference was glaring.
He had purchased very little compared to the other two, and preparation videos had very little in terms of information or how he had been preparing for the trip.
Where Woody and Kyle looked prepared, motivated, and ready for adventure, Wings' gear looked sparse and uninspired. He didn't seem to have put much thought into it, and his tone was less about excitement and more about obligation. It was as if he were being dragged into something he didn't really want to do. That hesitation carried over into the podcast too. Every time the trip came up, Wings sounded reluctant, making excuse after excuse for why it couldn't happen yet. He suggested pushing it back to May instead of April. He even claimed that because the trip was scheduled so close to his birthday on April 21st, he wouldn't be able to go until after. To Kyle and Woody, it came across less like scheduling conflicts and more like stalling.
My birthday's April 21st, and I am not going any time before that.
Wait, why? I've never heard of anyone celebrating a birth month before.
Yeah.
Whoever heard of a birth month?
Women.
My birthday is May 9th. First off, I still need to practice.
22nd.
I don't have all my stuff. My boots are in the mail. I don't even have pants.
Look, we're talking about doing this in 16...
But his co-hosts weren't letting him off the hook. They pushed him to commit, insisting the date had already been set, April 14th. They weren't about to let Wings wriggle out of it. Eventually, after enough pressure, he agreed.
Look, we're talking about doing this in 17 days, 18 days from now. That's what we just talked about.
Amazon Prime.
And you're like, my boots are still in the mail, man. I've got to get more skills.
I was always under the impression it was going to be beginning of May.
Dude, let's do this. Let's do this. April 14th, don't say no. Don't puss out. Don't be a sissy. Don't be a loser. Be a winner. Make a thing happen.
Why are you against May?
You want to live an extraordinary... Because May is the distant future. You want to live an extraordinary life. You want to do extraordinary things. Then you find out how to make them go. I watched the Painkiller Already subreddit. And they're like, man, a lot of these guys would really like to do this. Man, I would like to do this thing. There's a reason not a lot of people do this. And it's because they're wired to figure out reasons why they can't do it. Why they shouldn't do it.
I'm not backing out. I'm the last person who's going to back out.
The fans were thrilled. Not only was this going to be an entertaining survival challenge, it was going to be another big moment in Wings' story. Some people hoped it would be a breakthrough for him, forcing him out of his comfort zone. Others predicted disaster, imagining the chaos of Wings trying to rough it in the wild. Either way, people were excited, with Woody and Kyle showing their gear, hyping up the adventure, and making detailed plans. The trip felt real. Everything was set. The date was locked. The group was ready. Then came the fabled night before the trip. According to Kyle, the disaster began the night before the survival trip. He was already on the road, just a few hours away from where the group had agreed to meet. Excited, he gave Wings a call to check in. He asked if Wings was ready, if he needed anything, and even offered to rent a motel with 2 rooms so they could share. But instead of hearing enthusiasm or even nervousness on the other end of the line, Kyle was blindsided. Wings calmly told him that he wasn't coming.
I'm driving in the night before, and I think to myself, hey, let me give old Wings a call, make sure we're all good to go here, because it's Wings. Call him up, say, hey man, you ready to do this thing? I'm driving in now, about 3 hours from the place. What are you up to? You could if you left right now, you'd be here around 11, and you could share this motel room with me. I could get a room with 2 beds or so. He's like, I'm not going. What? What do you mean? I'm not coming. When were you going to tell me? I'm telling you right now. What the? So I call. I text Woody. I'm like, he's not fucking going.
Literally the night before the trip, after months of planning, after all the hype, after the gear had been bought and the date locked in, Wings pulled the plug. Shocked and frustrated, Kyle immediately called Woody, hoping for the same thing that had worked so many times in the past. Woody talking Wings back into it. Time and again, when Wings wavered or tried to back out of something, Woody had been the voice of reason that convinced him to follow through. But not this time. No amount of convincing could get Wings to change his mind.
He's not fucking going. And so Woody gets on the phone with him. Woody tries to talk, and I'm thinking like Woody's going to talk him into this. I'm still driving with this idea. Woody will talk him into this. Woody's a great motivational speaker when he needs to be, and I'm sure Woody was filling him with
compilations of me telling Wings, if you want to be an extraordinary person, you have to do extraordinary things.
Be a winner, not a loser. Be a doer, not a don'ter.
Very Henry Rollins-esque, yeah.
Yeah, this sort of talk, and he just doesn't come. He just doesn't come.
The survival trip that was supposed to feature the 3 of them became just Kyle and Woody, and even that didn't go smoothly. Kyle fell dangerously ill during the trip, forcing them to cut it short. What could have been an epic PKA adventure ended in disappointment, frustration, and another black mark on Wings' reputation. When fans asked why he had backed out, Wings uploaded a series of defensive videos trying to justify his decision. He explained that none of them actually had survival experience, and that going into the woods for days on end was too dangerous. He also cited his mental health, saying he simply wasn't in the right headspace, and that people should realize just how bad things must have been if he was willing to risk his friendships and his channel by canceling at the last minute. In his mind, it wasn't cowardice, it was self-preservation.
Obviously, I didn't go to the PKA survival trip today. And I seen people tell me like, oh, why don't you go now? Go now. Do it. Dude, that's not an option. And the reason I didn't tell them ahead of time is mainly because I didn't want to basically start the trend up before and have them try to talk me out of it. Because I'd already made my mind up. I wasn't going to go. I didn't want to deal with it. You think I want to be this person? You think I wanted to make a decision where, it could be meaning the end of my channel or the end of friendships? Do you think I want to be like on the outs with Kyle and Woody? No, I don't. But the fact is, I got to the point emotionally where I was willing to risk my channel never rebounding. I was willing to risk my friendship with Kyle and Woody because I was afraid of this trip. And that right there should speak volumes of where I was at mentally.
But to Kyle, Woody, and the fans, it was something else entirely. Betrayal. The trip had been a group effort, something they had all invested time, money, and energy into. To cancel the night before, after months of build-up, felt like another instance of Wings sabotaging himself and dragging others down in the process. For the PKA crew, this may have been the final straw. Not long after the failed survival trip, Woody and Kyle made the difficult decision to remove Wings from the podcast. It was a shocking move, given that Wings was the one who had originally started PKA in the first place. But from their perspective, the constant drama, unreliability, and public meltdowns had become too much to handle. At first, Woody and Kyle tried to handle the situation with respect. Out of loyalty to their longtime friend, they didn't speak negatively about Wings publicly. They didn't trash him, they didn't reveal behind-the-scenes details, they simply moved forward without him.
Yes, I suppose we should talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah, so we've decided, it was a group decision, we decided that Wings of Redemption wasn't going to continue with us. You know, he's having a hard time, and he's made some decisions that we didn't feel were so friendly, so for the time being.
But Wings didn't take kindly to being kicked off the very show he had helped create. Before long, he began lashing out on Twitter, airing his grievances, and reigniting the drama that his friends had tried so hard to put to rest. In his response video, Woody finally broke his silence. He addressed the situation head-on, pointing to Wings' behavior on Twitter. Wings had been telling people that the PKA members were never really his friends, and even went so far as to claim on Keemstar's show that they never gave him a cut of the podcast money. But this didn't line up with his own words, because in other videos, Wings admitted that getting kicked off PKA cost him nearly a third of his income.
The core of it is he says like these guys were that the PKA crew were never friends to him, that we never called him, we didn't share the money with him and things like that, and that frustrates me because it's a lie, and that's kind of why he's gone, because it was this constant backstabbing, this constant taking shots at him. Every time he fell into some sort of slump or got grumpy or whatever, he would lash out at all the people that were close to him. The truth is, like, if you follow Wings on Twitter, you know that sometimes he'll just go off about all his personal problems and put that on Twitter. And I would be the guy that texted him or called him and tried to sort of work it out. I was the guy that held his Twitter account to sort of back off on that a little bit.
To Woody, this was part of a long-running pattern. Whenever Wings was upset, depressed, or in a bad place, he lashed out at the people closest to him, whether it was Woody, Kyle, or anyone else who tried to help. Instead of recognizing the support he'd been given, Wings twisted things to make himself the victim. Woody explained that this wasn't what real friendship looked like. But what really stung was a separate incident involving another online personality known as Jesus. This was someone who had threatened to rape Woody's wife and daughter, a line that went far beyond trolling or internet beef. Instead of condemning the man, Wings had actually donated money to him.
When obviously Jesus he said that he was going to rape my daughter, rape my wife after he kicked my ass, and he called Colin retarded 100 times. And Wings donated money to that guy because he thought it would make him look good.
For Woody, that was unforgivable. It showed not just poor judgment, but a betrayal of the very people who had stood by him for years. Woody laid it all out for the audience. He reminded viewers that both he and Kyle had gone above and beyond for Wings, time and time again. Kyle had literally remodeled his bathroom to accommodate Wings' size, taken a month out of his life to help him lose weight, and even created content to upload directly to Wings' channel so that his friend could grow his brand. And Woody himself? He had always been Wings' first line of defense whenever things went wrong. Whenever trolls attacked him, whenever other YouTubers mocked him, and Woody was there to defend his reputation. Just like during the Keemstar podcast when El Presador came after Wings. The reality was simple. They had been good friends. They had done everything in their power to support him both personally and professionally, and yet Wings had the audacity to turn around and claim they were never really friends at all. To Woody and Kyle and to many fans watching, it wasn't just ungrateful, it was shameful. Even with his friendships in ruins and his reputation taking another hit, Wings still had one thing going for him: his fans. In late 2014, he launched what became known as the 365 Walking Challenge, where he committed to walking 4 miles a day for an entire year. For the first time in a while, his content felt consistent, focused, and positive. Viewers tuned in not just to see gameplay, but to track his progress and cheer him on. The series gave his audience a reason to root for him again, and despite losing Kyle and Woody, he showed that he wasn't entirely alone. While his personal relationships were falling apart, The walking challenge proved that a core fan base was still willing to support him as long as he showed effort and consistency. It was a rare moment where the community seemed to rally behind Wings instead of against him. That was until day 79, when Wings slipped off track and admitted he had gained 6 pounds back. It was a discouraging setback, but his old trainer, Drew, stepped in and offered to train him for free. With Drew's guidance, Wings managed to keep pushing forward. For nearly a year, his content shifted away from Call of Duty and leaned more toward workout vlogs, progress updates, and glimpses into his attempts at self-improvement. While he wasn't pulling the same numbers as before, it showed a different side of him, one focused less on gaming and more on personal growth. People stopped seeing Wings of Redemption purely as a gamer and began noticing more of his personality. As his YouTube uploads slowed down, he gradually transitioned into streaming on Twitch instead. On Twitch, the curtain pulled back further, and what viewers saw was not just a creator streaming games, but a man unraveling in real time. Wings' streams became a raw record of struggle. He was candid about his finances, admitting that he was living off savings, that YouTube uploads had almost stopped, and that the steady income he once relied on had evaporated. For someone whose identity and security had been wrapped up in an internet career, that was devastating. More alarming were the things he said about his future. On multiple streams, he verbalized a plan that sounded irreversible. He intended to keep going the way he was, burning through savings until there was nothing left and then end his life.
So let's see, Wings. His highs are nice and high, right? He's working with Drew. He's enjoying weightlifting, which is a cool thing. He hasn't really enjoyed any workout prior to that. I guess that's it. Those are his highs. On the on the downside, his financial situation continues to head worse, right? Like, and he stopped working basically. So his job, of course, is to make YouTube videos. And what has he made? Like maybe 3 in the last month?
Yeah, he's living off his savings.
So he's gaining weight. He's losing money. And he was on a Twitch stream. So as we say this is maybe like 5 days ago, I'm guessing. He said his plan was still to keep doing what he's doing until he runs out of money and then not murder himself. Suicide. That's what I'm looking for.
Those words spoken in front of thousands of viewers were a signal flare for how dark his thinking had become. Some of the audience responded with concern and attempts to help. Others reacted with skepticism or cruelty, accusing him of seeking attention. Either way, the statements altered how people followed him from that point on. His online presence stopped being just entertainment and became a live, fragile negotiation between survival and collapse. At the same time, his professional support system was eroding. Drew, the personal trainer who had once provided structure and accountability, was no longer a regular on his channel. The workouts that had once been central to his content and to his recovery fell away. Without a coach in his corner, Wings' discipline slipped. He fell off his diet, he stopped training consistently, and within months, much of the weight he had fought to lose returned. The physical comeback mirrored an emotional regression. The visible progress he had shown during the boot camp faded, and with it the sense of momentum that had briefly lifted him out of the rut. The consequences rippled outward. Friends who had stood by him grew weary. Professional relationships thinned. The viewers who once cheered on his walks and workouts were now watching a repeating pattern, a short stretch of effort, a visible relapse, angry or despairing streams, and then a period of silence. His channel, which had once been an engine of both identity and income, produced less and less content that advertisers or platforms wanted to promote. That meant fewer viewers, less revenue, and a feedback loop that fed the very despair he described on stream. Financial strain amplified social isolation. He had no steady job to fall back on, and with savings dwindling, the practicalities of daily life became a source of stress and humiliation. Relationships that might have offered stability were gone. The girlfriend he had supported previously had left. Long-term friendships were fractured by public feuds and private betrayals, and the small victories that once defined him on YouTube no longer translated into respect in his everyday life. For viewers and for anyone watching closely, this period was tragic and instructive. It showed how digital fame can concentrate risk, when income, identity, social networks, and emotional validation all come from the same unstable source. A downturn in one area cascades into all the others. Wing's situation became a cautionary case about what happens when a person's entire sense of worth is tied to an audience that can be fickle, cruel, or simply move on. None of these excuses the moments in which he lashed out, threatened others, or made choices that burned bridges. Those actions had real costs and real victims. At the same time, the live broadcasts of his decline were an urgent reminder that public figures are still people, and that when someone talks about ending their life, the appropriate response is concern, intervention, and care, not mockery. The Twitch era for Wings was not a comeback. It was a raw and painful exposure of how fragile a life built on internet attention can be. By 2016, Wings of Redemption had shifted almost entirely into Twitch streaming as his main source of income. On paper, it looked like he had carved out a sustainable lane, streaming regularly, interacting with fans, and keeping himself in the gaming space. But in practice, this era revealed some of the most infamous and unflattering moments of his entire career. One of the first viral clips that put his Twitch streams on the wider map was him venting about Call of Duty. He admitted, through frustration, that he hated the game because it had ruined his life.
I had almost 700 on the COD remaster, man. Like, I hate Call of Duty. I hate it. It ruined my life. I hate everything about it.
The statement wasn't just hyperbole. Viewers could hear in his tone the bitterness and regret tied to his failed YouTube career. This kind of raw outburst quickly became a staple of his content, whether intentional or not. But what really accelerated his notoriety on Twitch was how poorly he treated the very fans who supported him. Wings developed a reputation for being toxic and hostile toward its viewers. Stories spread about him, telling one fan that he hopes your entire family dies in a car crash simply because the fan outplayed him in a match.
Okay. That's how the game works, buddy. That's the mechanic in the fucking game, but you know? I'm just trolling you, chill. It's not for
whatever. I hope your family dies in an automobile wreck.
What? Who the fuck says that?
I say that because you're a piece of shit.
In another instance, when a viewer tried to offer him tips on Rainbow Six Siege, Wings threatened to ban them outright. These weren't isolated moments. They reflected a pattern of hostility, entitlement, and inability to handle frustration.
Ban Lardmuff, by the way. You're supposed to ban anybody that wants to sit here and criticize my skill.
Rather than turning people away, however, this behavior attracted a new type of audience. Just like figures such as Chris Chan or Nikocado Avocado, Wings had inadvertently built a viewer base that tuned in not out of admiration, but to watch him unravel. His rages, meltdowns, and over-the-top reactions became the main draw. Fans would actively troll him, baiting him into outbursts, knowing that his lack of self-control would lead to explosive and entertaining results. This dynamic created an ecosystem outside of Wings' own channel. YouTube creators like Sean Ranklin started uploading compilations of Wings' Twitch meltdowns, and these channels often gained more traction and views than Wings' actual content. Clips of him crying about his failed weight loss surgery or delivering his now iconic "look here, look listen" rant went viral, cementing his place in internet culture not as a respected creator, but as a spectacle.
Look here! Look, listen! Appearing offline does not fucking stop it. So stop giving fucking advice you know nothing about.
By this point, Wings wasn't just a gamer anymore, he had become content for others. His legacy was no longer tied to the Call of Duty commentary scene, but to his public meltdowns, infamous sound bites, and his inability to separate himself from the trolls that relentlessly fed on his reactions. However, the trolls never ran out of ways to get under Wings' skin. They thrived on his reactions, and the louder and angrier he became, the more determined they were to keep pushing. One of the most effective trolling tactics from this period came from a small piece of personal information. At some point, people discovered that the house Wings was living in had once been listed under the name Richard Jordan. Very quickly, Richard became a running gag in his streams and chats, with trolls spamming the name constantly.
Why do you guys keep saying Richard? Keep in mind, if you continue to say Richard, whether you're a sub or not, we're just going to get rid of you for 24 hours, right?
To Wings, this was not funny. He got annoyed whenever the name came up, insisting again and again that nobody in his family was named Richard, and that it had nothing to do with him.
My brother's name is not Richard. My brother's name is Kenneth. It's not Richard. There's nobody in my family named Richard. I don't know where you guys get this.
But his denials only made things worse. The trolls saw how much the nickname bothered him, and they doubled down. What he didn't realize was that every time he gave the reaction they wanted, he only encouraged them further. The harassment didn't stop at chat spam. Trolls escalated their efforts to much more serious levels. Wings became a victim of swatting, where false calls were made to police in order to send them to his house. This incident was not just disruptive to his streams, but also dangerous, since law enforcement responding to fake emergencies could easily have led to tragedy.
Dude, he legit got swatted. I'm pretty sure.
There were also endless food deliveries sent directly to his home, another method designed to humiliate him. Sometimes he would receive odd single items, like just a hamburger bun, while other times it would be bags of salads or random meals.
Really? Alright, I'm not gonna give that a dignified response. Watch, here it is right here. Here's your salad. In the trash. Dude, I didn't ask for DoorDash to begin with. Uh-oh. And then on top of things, they sent me a salad without salad dressing and shit like that. Like, it's like, get real. Hey baby, can you bring us the Mountain Dew?
Each delivery was meant to remind him of the trolling community's obsession with his weight and eating habits. These kinds of stunts showed how relentless the trolls were. It wasn't just online insults anymore. They had learned how to blur the line between digital harassment and real-world disruption, and for Wings, it became a constant battle to keep his streams on track while under siege. Around this point in 2017, Wings began talking more seriously about undergoing weight loss surgery. His struggles with his weight had been an ever-present part of his online persona, often the subject of both his own discussions and the ridicule of others. But now, for the first time, he announced that he was officially considering a surgical procedure. Wings set a specific goal. He wanted to raise $8,000 in order to have the operation performed in Mexico, where the costs were far lower than in the United States. From the beginning, the fundraising process was messy. Whenever Wings was live, donations and surgery discussions became constant topics. The pressure to reach his financial goal seemed to weigh on him during every stream. If he played poorly, if he was killed in a game, or if the donations slowed down, he would lash out. In one notorious stream, trolls managed to join Wings' lobby and began repeatedly team-killing him. What started as another cruel prank quickly escalated. As the sabotage continued, Wings broke down in tears on stream, saying that their actions were ruining his channel and destroying his only chance to pay for surgery. He cried about how the constant trolling and harassment meant he would never be able to afford the operation that he desperately needed. The incident became one of the most infamous low points of his career, a moment replayed endlessly by trolls for years afterward.
I don't know when I'll stream again. I really need to make this fucking money. I really wanted to get this fucking surgery, man. I wanted it so fucking bad. I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man. All I wanted to do was, like, I was fucking lonely. I wanted to just stream and have a good time. Maybe have a good game.
His frustration levels increased, and his outbursts became more dramatic. Viewers began to notice that Wings was tying his in-game performance and his mood directly to the progress of his fundraiser. Despite the volatility, his fan base eventually delivered, and Wings reached the full amount he said was needed for the surgery. But instead of moving quickly toward the operation, delays began to mount. Wings explained that because he had chosen to go through a cheaper clinic in Mexico, he needed to wait for official paperwork and documents to be processed. According to him, the procedure could not move forward until all of these details were resolved. For many viewers, this sounded like stalling. It created the impression that Wings was not truly committed to the surgery, and that he was finding reasons to push it further and further into the future. It did not take long for his critics to seize on this narrative. One of his most vocal opponents, Keemstar, reignited their long-standing rivalry by accusing Wings of lying about his progress. At this time, Wings had been documenting his fitness efforts through a series he called Walking 365, where he attempted to walk regularly as a way to prepare for the surgery and improve his health. But Keemstar exposed that Wings had not been sticking to the schedule as consistently as he claimed. This triggered another outburst from Wings, who made a video responding to Keem, going so far as to wish death upon him.
And I've seen how terrible of a person he could be. I'm dead serious. Like, if somebody deserved to die on this planet, Daniel King would be one of them. That's dead serious. Like, if you wanted to do Sharia law, Daniel King should be one of the first people to die and have his hands chopped off. He's a despicable person, and that is word to your mother truth right there.
This cycle of accusations and angry responses had played out many times before between the two men, but the weight loss fundraiser gave it a new intensity. Their rivalry became public once again, and Keemstar decided to escalate it further. He took to Twitter and challenged Wings to a boxing match. For Keem, this was a way to publicly embarrass his rival, but for Wings, it was unthinkable. He immediately dismissed the idea, saying that he could barely walk as it was, let alone train for a fight in the ring. The challenge evolved into a more serious conversation when the two appeared together in a live call. During the debate, Keemstar made an unexpected offer. He He said that he would personally pay the $25,000 required for Wings to undergo the surgery in the United States if Wings would agree to fight him in a boxing match 1 year later. The offer was meant to put Wings in a position where he could not refuse without looking weak, but Wings declined anyway, insisting that he would never fight Keemstar under any circumstances.
I mean, like, if you were so worried about me having it done in Mexico, why don't you donate the $25,000 so I can have it done right here in Conway?
All right, deal. If I donate the $25,000 to have it done in Conway and you survive, okay, then you have to box me a year after the surgery.
After refusing the deal, Wings shifted his story once again. He announced that he was now saving up his own money to have the surgery performed in America instead of Mexico. He added that doctors had told him he needed to lose a certain amount of weight before they would even consider performing the procedure, which meant the process would take far longer than his audience initially expected. For many, this only reinforced the idea that Wings was not being honest about his intentions. Despite the doubts, by late 2018, Wings finally went through with the surgery. To prove it, he posted screenshots and updates confirming that the operation had taken place. When he returned to streaming, the difference was noticeable. Although he was still a large man, he was visibly slimmer compared to his pre-surgery appearance. Reports circulated that his weight had dropped to around 300 pounds, a significant improvement from his earlier weight, which had consistently been over 400. For a brief time, it seemed like Wings had taken a real step forward. The surgery marked a turning point, and this time it was in a more positive direction. Wings proved many doubters wrong by actually following through with the procedure, after months of controversy and speculation. For once, he had delivered on a major promise, and that alone earned him back some respect from his fanbase. Viewers noticed he looked thinner on stream, and although he still had a long way to go, it was clear progress compared to where he had started. He regained some trust from his fanbase for following through with the operation, and the fact that he posted evidence of the procedure silenced many of the doubters who had accused him of lying or pocketing the money. His streams, while still rocky, showed signs of improvement. The explosive meltdowns that had once defined his content became less frequent. Instead of erupting in anger whenever something went wrong in a game, Wings would often just sigh heavily, a quieter but noticeable shift in how he dealt with frustration. The legendary crash outs still happened, but they occurred far less often than before. He also attempted to find a more practical solution to the endless trolling that had plagued him for years. In a late 2019 call with his former friend Woody, Wings admitted that he had been reaching out to many of the channels that made rage compilations of his meltdowns. According to him, he struck informal deals where they would pay him for the clips they used in exchange for avoiding takedowns or strikes.
Yeah, I heard you say that you were making money off the troll channels.
I am.
That's true?
That is true. Any troll channel you see with advertisement on it is paying me kickback.
So you claim those videos and then you get the money?
No. I have deals worked out with each one of them for different amounts.
Get out. You have deals worked out with them so they pay you for content?
No, they pay me to not strike them.
That's kind of blackmail-y? I don't have another word for it, dude.
I mean, it's not blackmail-y. It's like they're making money. You cut me a little piece of the money because you're using my content. Like, all you're doing is re-editing my content. So, like, I have the power to, like, take your content down. But if you want to work out a deal where you pay me for, like, the rights to use my content, I'm down to let your channel stay up.
While some saw this as a kind of low-level blackmail, others viewed it as a clever way of taking back some control. Surprisingly, it worked. The compilations still circulated, but Wings was at least benefiting from them, and the trolls who had once dominated his streams started to lose some of their momentum. Wings had finally started to settle into a more positive routine, a stark contrast from the chaos that had defined so much of his earlier career. For once, there was real evidence that he was trying to take control of his life both online and offline. He had taken up a job as a DoorDash delivery driver, earning some extra income outside of streaming.
I never looked at DoorDash. I did DoorDash strictly to put money in my savings account.
For Wings, this wasn't just about the money. It was about proving to himself and to others that he could work a normal job, contribute to his savings, and have something that wasn't tied directly to the trolls who had tormented him for years. It gave him a sense of independence that had long been missing. The streams during this period reflected that small but noticeable shift. Rather than letting every frustrating moment boil over into anger, he had begun to lean into it, slowly learning how to control the narrative. Rage had once been his greatest weakness, the fuel that kept the trolls coming back, but now, in a strange twist, He started to embrace it in a way that showed a lighter side of himself. One memorable example of this came during a stream with one of his fans. After a tense moment in the game, the fan asked him if he would rage the next time he died, just for fun. Wings surprised everyone by laughing at the request and agreeing. When he eventually did die, he threw himself into the performance yelling out, "Why the freak did you do that?" in an exaggerated voice.
Okay, I got you.
We
Hey,
gotta get
hold
some
up,
good
hold
footage.
up, motherfucker. I'm gonna get $5 of this, right? What the hell? I gotta act and everything.
Yeah.
You gotta get them a sub, bro.
Alright, Jordie, get ready. Come on. You ready for this? Any last orders?
Fuck!
Oh,
why the you do that, Skate?
The anger wasn't real this time, and both he and his chat knew it. What might have once been a genuine meltdown was instead delivered as a joke. His audience reacted positively, spamming laughing emotes and cheering him on. For a brief moment, the tension that usually hung over his streams was replaced by something lighter. It showed that, at least sometimes, he could laugh at himself and give the viewers what they wanted without spiraling into genuine frustration. These moments were important. They demonstrated a rare instance where Wings felt like he had some control over the way his audience perceived him. For years, trolls had taken every rage clip and used it against him, but by choosing to rage on his own terms, he flipped that narrative ever so slightly. He wasn't just a victim of his temper anymore. He was learning how to control it. Of course, things were never completely smooth. Mistakes still happened, and Wings had a tendency to attract trouble, even when he wasn't looking for it. During one stream, while browsing a car website, he accidentally doxed himself by revealing personal information on screen. It was a simple slip-up, but the trolls immediately latched onto it. Even though the relentless waves of harassment from his past had died down, the few trolls who remained active seized on every chance to remind him that they were still watching. They used the accidental dox as yet another opportunity to poke at him, spamming references in chat and circulating the clip wherever they could. The incident was frustrating, and it lingered over his streams for weeks afterward. Whenever he tried to focus on gameplay or casual conversations with his chat, there would always be at least a few comments referencing the mistake. It was proof that while the atmosphere around his streams had improved, the trolls would never disappear entirely. He could reduce their power, but he could not erase them. Still, compared to the torment he had endured in the earlier years, these incidents were minor bumps in the road. The trolling no longer dominated his entire life, and his streams were no longer defined solely by conflict. For the first time in a long time, Wings was starting to carve out a version of his career that was at least partially on his own terms. Around this time, Wings also found himself in an unusual situation, one that would allow him to show a very different side of his personality. For most of his career, whenever he interacted with people outside of his core fanbase, it was usually hostile. Trolls would invade his chat, or show up in his games, and their goal was always the same: to provoke a meltdown. The exchanges almost always devolved into insults, anger, and shouting. Viewers had grown so used to this dynamic that many assumed it was the only way Wings could interact with people. But then came an interaction that stood out from everything else. Another YouTuber, Frederick Knudsen, who would later go on to make a documentary about Wings as part of his Down the Rabbit Hole series, reached out to have a genuine conversation with him. For once, it wasn't about mocking him, baiting him, or tricking him into another embarrassing clip. This time, it was about understanding him. The conversation between Wings and Frederick was surprisingly calm, even thoughtful. Wings, who was so often painted as a one-dimensional figure defined by his anger, revealed a more human side during this exchange. The two spoke at length about topics that had little to do with gaming or trolling, instead focusing on something far more personal: food.
Everyone has their own personal relationship with food, and people think that food is this very universal thing, and it's like, yeah, everyone eats, but not everyone eats or views food the same.
You know, like watching your video, because I kind of skimmed through it because it's like 2 hours long, and I've lived.
I don't blame you.
I've lived through everything in the video, so like.
You don't need a recap.
But like I was really depressed at how fat I was in a lot of those scenes.
Like, yeah. No,
you don't realize how fat you are until you go back and look at like you at your worst.
Mm-hmm.
Food had always been central to the way that people saw Wings. Trolls often mocked his eating habits, his weight, and his struggles with health. But in this discussion with Frederick, the subject was handled in a very different way. Wings explained his perspective on the relationship between people and food, acknowledging that everyone approaches it differently. Some people, he said, struggle to eat enough, while others, like himself, struggle to eat less. It wasn't framed as a joke or an attack. It was simply a recognition of the fact that food can mean different things to different people, and for some, it can become a lifelong struggle. Frederick, for his part, shared that he had the opposite problem. Whereas Wings admitted to eating too much without difficulty, Frederick described his own difficulty with eating enough. The contrast between their experiences allowed for a moment of genuine connection.
I have sort of the opposite relationship with food than you do, where like I guess it's kind of similar, where I won't eat until I feel like I've deserved it. Like if I've worked enough today, like have I worked enough today to deserve food? And that's its own problem.
Yeah, like I can't comprehend what you're putting down right now.
For once, Wings wasn't the target of ridicule. He was simply another person sharing his story, opening up in a way that viewers rarely got to see. This moment mattered because it stood apart from the endless cycle of rage clips and trolling. It showed that beneath the defensive exteriors, Wings was capable of introspection. He could hold a real conversation without it collapsing into hostility. And while it didn't erase the years of controversy and negativity that surrounded his name, it gave people a glimpse of something different. For many viewers who would later see Frederick's video, that conversation was an important reminder. Wings of Redemption was not just a collection of angry clips, insults, and meltdowns. He was also a human being with struggles, insecurities, and thoughts that extended far beyond gaming. Things were looking up for Wings. His streams felt lighter, his work outside of YouTube gave him some stability, and he seemed to be moving past some of the darkest stretches of his online journey. But just as it felt like he might finally be turning a corner, terrible news was about to shake things once again. 2020 turned out to be an especially rough time for Jordie. To start with, his grandmother passed away, a woman he had been extremely close to ever since his parents pretty much abandoned him. For most of his life, she was the one who raised him and gave him the stability he never really had anywhere else. She also happened to be the one who spoiled him, often feeding him whatever he asked for, which many believe played a major role in the weight issues we still see with him today. Wings' grandmother first started appearing in Jordie's vlogs in 2013, and she quickly became a fan favorite. Many people in the Wings community began affectionately calling her Gaster Grandma, a nickname referencing her tough upbringing in poverty-stricken Conway. While Wings often spoke fondly of his grandmother on stream, some moments caught live painted a much sadder picture of their relationship. He was often disrespectful towards her and took her for granted. She would do his chores, serve him food, and he would continue acting like a 34-year-old man-child. In one instance, Grandma brought him lunch during a stream, only for Wings to snap that he was working and shoo her away.
Stream on YouTube, which I don't stream on YouTube anyway. No, Grandma, I'm working.
One in here?
No. No. I didn't need that right now.
Despite his repeated claims that he lived with her to take care of her, what viewers saw suggested the opposite. By this time, Wings was 34 years old but still living like a high school kid, spending his days gaming while Grandmother took care of the household chores. Sadly, at the beginning of 2020, her health took a serious turn for the worse. Doctors discovered that she had multiple tumors in her lungs, and she was admitted to hospice care, where she remained for a while. This absolutely shook Jordie to his core, and as we've seen countless times before, whenever Jordie is upset, he tends to pull some bizarre stunt or lash out in ways only he can. His behavior during this period was no less erratic, strange, and, well, very much in line with what people had come to expect from him. But 2020 didn't just bring tragedy into Jordie's life, it also delivered a shocking twist that no one saw coming. Out of nowhere, Jordie announced to the world that he was getting married.
Alright, serious question here. Woody, do you know if Wings is getting married?
I saw him say that he was engaged. He made several references to her. He said that people are all up in his business and want to know about his fiance, but he doesn't want to share too much.
Not only did he make the announcement, but he even showed off the ring he had bought in his video, proudly telling his audience that he had proposed. For many fans, this was news that left them baffled and scratching their heads, and there were more than a few reasons why this announcement caused such a stir. First off, if you know anything about Jordie, you already know that he has a long history of strange and short-lived relationships, most of which were filled with pure chaos. Over the years, he met several of his girlfriends through this dating site called Plenty of Fish, and while he didn't actually meet his fiancée, now wife, on that platform, Plenty of Fish still gets brought up a lot whenever people talk about the whole wife saga. Honestly, the entire thing is just complete and absolute chaos from start to finish, and don't worry, we're going to dive into all of that mess as the story unfolds. Now, the second reason why people were so baffled by the whole marriage announcement was the fact that Jordie never once brought his fiancée, his then girlfriend, on camera. For anyone who had been following him for years, this was a huge red flag, because if there's one thing Jordie had a pattern of doing, it was dragging his personal life right into the spotlight. Every relationship he'd ever had in the past was broadcast in some way, whether it was him talking about it endlessly on streams, mentioning it in videos, or even directly showing his girlfriends on camera. It was almost as if he couldn't resist making his relationships part of his content. So when he suddenly claimed he was ready to get married, showed off the ring he had bought, and made all these big statements about proposing, people were naturally skeptical. Why was this relationship being kept so private when all the others had been shoved front and center? To a lot of fans, something about the whole situation felt strange, almost like he was hiding something. It just didn't line up with the Jordie people knew, and that's exactly why so many were left questioning it when he first announced it. So with all that in mind, it was pretty understandable when his trolls, and even some regular viewers, started saying that Jordie was rushing the marriage. Think about it. To the fans, this mysterious woman had never been mentioned, and suddenly he was talking about marrying her. On top of that, nobody had ever even seen her face. It just didn't sit right with people who had watched Jordie overshare about every other relationship in the past. In response to all the doubts and accusations, Jordie decided to do a live stream officially announcing the marriage.
Jordie announced he was getting married.
And like, people are concerned about how fast I'm getting married. I mean, me and this girl have been like off and on for 6 years. And the reason we've been off and on is I kept pushing her away. Mainly because of one simple reason. Like, she's super religious, I'm not.
In that video, he addressed the critics directly, saying he didn't care if people thought he was rushing into it. He explained that his fiancée had stuck by him through thick and thin, and in his own words, through all the girls and hoes, which to him proved that she was the real deal. Jordie also emphasized that he had known her for a very long time, suggesting this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment relationship like people assumed.
Not to date. And at the same time, it's like, she's one of the few people in my life that's always been there for me. Like, through all the other girls and hoes and shit like that, she's been the universal constant. So, do I think I'm rushing a marriage? No, not really. I think I'm getting married to the right person.
And to really hammer the point home, to prove he was serious about walking down the aisle with this mystery woman that nobody in the community knew anything about, Jordie even pulled out a marriage ring box on camera and showed it off to his viewers. For him, it was the ultimate proof that he wasn't bluffing. But for the fans, it only raised more questions, because they still didn't know who this woman was, or why Jordie was suddenly keeping her hidden from the public eye. In that same video, Jordie went on a bit of a tangent and revealed a lot more about the situation. He explained that even though he and this woman had known each other for a very long time, the two never seriously considered marriage in the past. According to Jordie, the main reason was that she was very religious, and he wasn't comfortable with that. Not because he disliked religious people, but because he was worried about what that might mean for his future children. Children that, as he admitted, he never even wanted to have in the first place. He said flat out that if they ever had kids, he didn't want them being forced into following a religion, and that became one of the biggest disagreements between them. She wanted to start a family right away, and Jordie wanted nothing to do with children, so for him, it didn't feel like a relationship that could ever really work.
Mainly because of one simple reason. Like, she's super religious, I'm not. Right? Like, religion's a big part of her life. And I'm not so concerned about her being religious as if we had children, I wouldn't want them to be forced into religion.
But then Jordie revealed that circumstances had changed. He claimed that she could no longer have children, and because of that, he now saw no reason to avoid being with her. In his mind, that removed the one major obstacle that had kept him from committing to her in the past, and suddenly marriage seemed like the obvious next step.
But I recently decided I don't want kids. There's a good chance she can't have kids. And that took away all the like downsides of like, hey, we probably won't work out long distance because like you want children. I don't know if I want children. I don't think we'll agree with how to raise children. So all that went out the window, so like there's no reason not to date.
In the beginning, a lot of people didn't believe him at all. They thought Jordie was just making the whole thing up, spinning some kind of story for attention or sympathy. But as time went on, and he continued to double down on his claims, it became harder to dismiss. Jordie wasn't backing away. He kept insisting that he was really getting married. And of course, whenever Jordie digs his heels in like that, the trolls and internet sleuths see it as a challenge. They wanted to know if this mysterious fiancé was even real, and if she was, who exactly she might be. And in true Jordie fashion, he practically handed them the breadcrumbs they needed. In his own videos while talking about her, he let slip just enough details for people to connect the dots. He mentioned that his fiancée was a cancer survivor and also worked as a nurse, and that was all it took. Within no time, people were able to track down her Facebook page and uncover her identity. Now remember back when we mentioned Jordie's high school best friend Kelly? Well, it's time for her to make a comeback in this story, because the mysterious fiancé turned out to be none other than Kelly herself. Yes, that Kelly. She would go on to become the wife of Wings of Redemption, officially tying the knot with him in 2020. Kelly was a former insurance clerk or a registered nurse. We are not really sure, but it doesn't really matter since she has now left her job and is living off Jordie, who in turn is living off the donations and charity of his fan base. The proposal itself wasn't exactly the most romantic moment in history either. Jordie reportedly bought Chick-fil-A and then proposed to her right in the middle of a hospital office. Over the years, Kelly has taken on several nicknames within the community, some self-styled, others less flattering, given to her by Jordie's critics and trolls. But regardless of how people view her, she's played a massive role in the Wings saga. In fact, in 2020, she even launched a YouTube vlog series called Fit Before 40, where she documented her weight loss journey leading up to her 40th birthday. However, the so-called wife saga was plagued with problems and drama right from the very beginning. The nightmare that came after their marriage would, of course, become the highlight of it all, but even before they tied the knot, things were already extremely shaky and confusing. For starters, Jordie had actually cheated on his fiancée before they were even married, and this wasn't just some rumor. It was with a catfish who tricked him into talking on, of all places, the very same website where Jordie had found so many of his past girlfriends, Plenty of Fish.
This guy was catfished like 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago. How long ago was that?
2 months ago.
Yeah.
Wait. Hold on. So he was catfished. I don't know who you're talking about, by the way.
Screenshots of their conversations quickly made their way online, and to this day, they're still floating around as proof that Jordie was never truly loyal to Kelly, at least not as a husband. But of course, this was just the beginning. Once trolls uncovered Kelly's identity, it didn't take long for things to spiral even further out of control. They wasted no time digging into her personal life, and soon enough they were contacting her family directly. And believe it or not, they actually managed to turn Kelly's own family against Jordie, essentially sabotaging his marriage before it even had a chance to properly begin. Now you might be wondering, how could trolls possibly sabotage someone's marriage like that? Well, here's how. They revealed that Jordie had gone ahead and bought the engagement ring for Kelly, even though her parents had specifically told him not to propose. That's right. Kelly's own parents didn't want Jordie to marry their daughter, and he ignored them completely. By exposing this detail, the trolls added fuel to an already shaky situation, making it clear that the marriage was not only chaotic from Jordie's side, but also deeply opposed by Kelly's family from the very start.
Here's what actually happened. Wings claimed he was getting married, and then someone did some research and found out that she has cancer, and she's about to have a cancer surgery this spring. Meanwhile, he just bought her a ring, even though they told him not to buy a ring.
But trust us when we say this was only the beginning of the chaos that came after. Things really started heating up when Wings' situation became a hot topic on the Painkiller Already podcast. His own former friends, Taylor, Kyle, and Woody, along with his longtime rival Boogie2988, all weighed in on the fiancé situation. During that discussion, Kyle in particular didn't hold back and basically exposed Jordie as being nothing more than a gold digger. And honestly, looking back at what Jordie himself was saying at the time, it's hard not to see where that accusation came from. Because when he talked about Kelly, he constantly mentioned two things: that now he was getting married, his income would expand, and that he would finally have free health insurance in his life.
And I guess she wants kids immediately, whereas he doesn't want kids at all. And he claimed that she was a nurse who made, quote, bank.
Think about how bizarre that sounds. He wasn't saying he loved her so much he couldn't imagine life without her, or that he wanted to build a future together. No. Instead, the things he highlighted as positives were financial security and health insurance. And in our opinion, at least, that's a pretty disgusting thing to say when announcing to the world that you're about to marry someone. Marriage is supposed to be about love, trust, and building a life together. But to Jordie, the way he framed it made it sound more like a business transaction. Add in the fact that Kelly's family wasn't thrilled about the relationship to begin with, and it's not hard to see why so many people felt this marriage was doomed right from the start. However, like we said, this was just the start of the chaos. During a live stream, Jordie managed to reveal something that left people shaking their heads. While searching for something on his computer midstream, his search bar auto-filled with a website that people immediately recognized, and it wasn't anything innocent. It suggested that Jordie had been looking up sites where you can actually hire escorts. Sadly, the screenshot that surfaced is pretty blurry, so it's hard to make out every detail. But for those who don't know, the site he was caught looking up is called Skip the Games, and if you do a quick search yourself, you'll see that it's definitely not the kind of website any engaged person should be visiting, let alone something you'd want to accidentally reveal to the entire internet during a live stream. Now keep in mind, this was during the time when Jordie was already engaged to Kelly, so naturally fans and trolls alike jumped all over it, calling him out for what looked like yet another example of shady, unfaithful behavior. Given his history of cheating before, it really wasn't that surprising to people that he might be up to something sketchy again. But here's where it gets a little interesting, and maybe even worth giving him the tiniest bit of benefit of the doubt. You see, trolls had been known to send escorts directly to Jordie's house as a way of harassing him. In fact, there was even one instance where an escort showed up while he was streaming, and Jordie abruptly ended the stream on the spot. So it's possible, just maybe, that the reason he was searching those sites wasn't to hire someone for himself, but instead to figure out where trolls were finding these escorts and how they kept getting sent to his doorstep. Still, regardless of the reason, the damage was already done. To the outside world, it looked like yet another scandal in an already chaotic engagement. But even if we somehow try to explain away the escort website situation, it didn't just end there. Trolls kept digging, and eventually people caught Jordie slipping on another livestream. While he was scrolling through his computer, viewers noticed something, let's just say, really questionable in his search suggestions. His search bar seemed to expose that he had been looking up BBC she-male corn, a discovery that immediately set the troll community on fire. The reason this caused such a stir was that Jordie had always loudly proclaimed that he was 100% straight. He often defended himself against rumors by saying he wasn't into anything outside of traditional relationships.
All right, if you want to consider me, but I've never messed with any kind of men or anything like that, and I don't find men attractive. No, I mean, like, I have no desire to be with a man. Like, almost every person I've ever dated is a woman.
So when this clip surfaced, trolls instantly began mocking him and questioning his... Despite Jordie quickly deleting the stream, the damage was already done. The recording had been clipped, circulated, and spread across troll pages within hours. People began saying that Jordie was secretly gay, others claimed he was lying about his preferences, and the whole situation spiraled into a constant source of harassment. What made things worse is that trolls didn't just make fun of him, they used this as another weapon to embarrass him and put pressure on his already crumbling relationship with Kelly. Jordie, of course, tried to do damage control. During another Q&A stream, when someone bluntly asked him about the search history, he did a complete 180 on the situation. He denied that he had been looking for what people thought, insisting instead that he had just clicked on the wrong thing. According to him, sometimes the thumbnails or titles on certain adult sites can be misleading, and he accidentally ended up clicking something he didn't mean to. He stuck to the story that it wasn't intentional, but given his track record, and the fact that trolls already saw him as dishonest, very few people actually believed him.
Wings, are you coming out as giving so much confidence? I'm not gay, man. What are my thoughts on pegging? I don't know what it is. Okay. I'm gonna put something out there. Just putting it out there, alright? Have you ever thought that maybe I was looking for blow porn and I clicked the wrong video? Because there's some girls out there that are really convincing. Is that ever a possibility?
However, another thing people were quick to notice was that Jordie was actually on page 5 of his search results. If you look closely at the screenshot, you can clearly see the page number displayed in the search bar, and that tiny detail made people question. If it really was just an accidental click, how did he end up all the way on page 5? That little discovery made the whole situation even more hilarious, especially since Jordie had absolutely no explanation for it. Over time, the event became infamous within the Wings community as the Page 5 incident. At this point, the narrative wasn't just about him being caught doing questionable things. It was about trolls relentlessly stacking every mistake, every slip-up, and every rumor on top of one another, creating a mountain of controversy that Jordie couldn't climb out of. And unfortunately for him, this was only one chapter in what would become a long list of humiliations broadcast live to the internet. And on top of everything else, people eventually uncovered that Jordie, despite loudly announcing to the world that he was now engaged, was still active on Plenty of Fish. That discovery added another heavy blow to his already fragile reputation, and it gave trolls even more ammunition to question the legitimacy of his relationship with Kelly. To most onlookers, it was simple. If he was truly committed, why was he still browsing dating apps? Combined with the earlier revelation that he had bought Kelly a ring, even after her parents specifically told him not to propose, the cracks in their relationship quickly turned into chasms. Before long, everything unraveled and the marriage was officially off. This was one of the darkest periods in Jordie's life. He openly admitted during a stream that he had fallen into a very deep depression, confessing that he had lost all motivation to stick with his diet and keep up his weight loss journey.
Yeah, I've been going the opposite way in weight lately. I mean, like, I've been eating like shit ever since the trolls went and kind of fucked with my marriage and like got her family against me, and like I've been trying to deal with that mess, and I don't know. I just been super depressed and unhappy. I mean, like, my grandma got diagnosed with cancer. Trolls fuck with my marriage. They're trying to fuck with me on the taxes. I mean, just a bunch of little things. Like I got a nail in one of my tires. Had to replace that. That's $300 I didn't want to spend. And like I haven't been motivated to do anything lately. Like I just been sleeping a lot and just kind of like meandering through life.
It was also around this time that Jordie's grandmother's health began to decline. Viewers expected Jordie to be supportive, but instead, he refused to visit her, saying he simply didn't want to see her in that condition. To many, this came off as selfish and detached, and it became yet another reason trolls criticized his character. So how did Jordie cope with his failed engagement, his worsening drama, and the relentless trolling? By spiraling. He began lashing out at viewers, going on long, angry rants during his streams, and spending more time online than ever before. Instead of focusing on his health, he turned back to old habits, sitting in front of the camera with bottles of sugary drinks and piles of food. The weight he had lost after his surgery began creeping back, and before long, he managed to gain back around 10 pounds. But he refused to accept it, saying that he was still the same size.
I'm actually around the same size. The only thing different is like I've just not been hiding it on the camera. Like I haven't really gained hardly any weight. I've gained a little bit.
For those who don't know, Jordie had undergone a gastric sleeve surgery, a procedure where a large portion of the stomach is surgically removed, leaving behind a smaller sleeve-shaped stomach. The surgery is designed to limit the amount of food a person can eat at one time, making it easier to lose weight. However, the surgery is not a magic fix. If the patient continues overeating after recovery, the stomach can gradually stretch and expand again, undoing much of the progress. That's exactly what seemed to be happening with Jordie. Instead of sticking to the strict lifestyle changes required to maintain long-term results, he slid back into binge eating and drinking habits, ultimately setting himself up for the same struggles he had faced before the operation. And of course, the trolls weren't about to let this slide. The moment Jordie started slipping back into his old eating habits, people clipped every single instance of him chugging soda or scarfing down junk food on stream. Memes began circulating that mocked the fact that he had spent thousands on gastric sleeve surgery, only to undo it by drowning himself in sugary drinks. Some even called the surgery pointless in his case, saying that Jordie didn't really want to change. He just wanted an easy way out. Every pound he gained back was documented, laughed at, and thrown back in his face, which only made his depression worse and pushed him deeper into the very habits the surgery was supposed to save him from. But somewhere in late 2022, things started to look up for Jordie again. Against all odds, despite the constant trolling, family drama, and his own self-sabotage, he and Kelly actually went through with the wedding. That's right, Jordie officially tied the knot, and the internet only found out when a handful of pictures started circulating online, showing him dressed up in formals. It didn't take long for people to confirm it. Wings of Redemption was now a married man. However, with this marriage came an entirely new wave of chaos. Perhaps the wildest and most bizarre incident during the wife saga was the infamous robbery news fiasco. A short clip began circulating online, showing what looked like a local news segment. In it, a video of Jordie and Kelly appeared, alongside text claiming that a married couple had been caught red-handed robbing a business on the northwest side. The story went even further, alleging that the couple had been apprehended at a gas station after the attempted robbery.
Thank you very much. We are staying on top of some late-breaking news overnight. Police say a man and a woman have been busy robbing businesses on the northwest side. Now, unfortunately for them, officers were also on the job and they managed to catch up with them. Katrina Weber live where the arrest happened, which is near Highway 151 in Petrenko. And you say it was a case of police being in the right place at the right time, Katrina.
Well, that's right. Those officers just happened to be passing by this area at the time when the call came in about a robbery here around 4:30 this morning. Those officers were actually on their way to yet another robbery call out on Culebra Road near Loop 1604. That's when the robbery call here came in. They say they caught the couple in action, arresting a woman who was still inside this Texaco gas station store. A man tried to run, according to police, but they ran him down and caught him on the access road. They found the couple's car still in the parking lot. Police say that this couple robbed 2 other stores in the medical center area. And again, they've both been arrested and they face a long list of charges, included aggravated robbery.
This clip absolutely exploded online, and trolls wasted no time in spreading it everywhere. For many people who had only ever heard Jordie mention his wife but never actually seen her, this was their very first glimpse of Kelly. Her face reveal, if you will. And of course, the reveal couldn't have come at a worse time. But here's the catch. The entire thing was fake. The news segment was doctored, the story was made up, and Jordie and Kelly had never robbed anyone. It later turned out that the so-called robbery news clip everyone was talking about actually had nothing to do with Jordie or Kelly at all. The report itself was about a robbery that took place in San Antonio, California, but the clips of Jordie and Kelly used in that segment were completely fake. They had been carefully edited and stitched together by trolls to make it look like the two were involved. At first glance, the footage appeared to be CCTV or security camera footage of the couple at a gas station, but when people took a closer look, the truth became obvious. The quality was far too low, and the shaky movements gave away that it was actually filmed on a phone, not from a stationary security camera. Even worse, the part of the news segment where the reporter said that Jordie tried to run from the police was also fake. It was just an old clip from his boot camp days that had been repurposed to fit the narrative. Honestly, it's pathetic, and totally hilarious to watch the stitched-together clip of him trying to run. Picture a cop chasing Jordie and struggling to keep up. The image is ridiculous. If Jordie ever tried to bolt from the police, he wouldn't last half a second. Regardless, eventually, people started piecing things together and realized the whole thing was a hoax. Jordie and Kelly had absolutely no connection to the robbery, and the video was just another elaborate troll attempt designed to humiliate them and stir up more chaos in the already messy Wings of Redemption saga. Now, obviously, Wings wasn't about to stay quiet about all this. If there's one thing we've learned over the years, and it's that Jordie just can't resist feeding into the drama, sometimes even intentionally. On top of that, he was genuinely furious that clips of him and Kelly were being used to spread fake news and make him look bad. During one of his live streams, Wings went on a rant saying that he was planning to take legal action. He claimed he was looking for lawyers to file a defamation lawsuit against Home Depot, because according to him, someone working there had secretly recorded him and used company resources to spread rumors online.
The dog the couple adopted was now attached to his life and story, and was brought to many viewers' attention in an equally chaotic fashion. Even for what is typical of his life, this was unexpected.
Thank you very much. We are staying on top of some late-breaking news overnight. Police say a man and a woman have been busy robbing businesses on the northwest side. Now, unfortunately for them, officers were also on the job and they managed to catch up with them. Katrina Weber live where the arrest happened, which is near Highway 151 in Petrenko. And you say it was a case of police being in the right place at the right time, Katrina.
Well, that's right. Those officers just happened to be passing by this area at the time when the call came in about a robbery here around 4:30 this morning. Those officers were actually on their way to yet another robbery call out on Culebra Road near Loop 1604. That's when the robbery call here came in. They say they caught the couple in action, arresting a woman who was still inside this Texaco gas station store. A man tried to run, according to police, but they ran him down and caught him on the access road. They found the couple's car still in the parking lot. Police say that this couple robbed 2 other stores in the medical center area. And again, they've both been arrested and they face a long list of charges, included aggravated robbery.
In those clips was Jordie Jordan and his wife Kelly. Kelly, who was now introduced to the online community through this video, because that news report was about an actual robbery taking place at a gas station in San Antonio, Texas, while Jordie lives in South Carolina. There was no belief that this was legitimate. Beyond that was spliced footage of what seems to be Jordie when he attended the FPS boot camp and the security camera footage that seems to be playing back on a monitor at the store but being recorded vertically with a phone. Jordie was not pleased with the fakery that is the splicing of these clips, nor the origin of him making that transaction.
I went to an Office Depot recently, and they took video. One of the employees took security footage and stole it and took it home of me making a transaction, and then they edited it into a like news feed of a gas station robbery. So I'm currently looking for lawyers for a defamation suit against Office Depot. That isn't legal defamation? I mean, like, for somebody to have access to the security camera, right? They would have to be a manager or hire at least a key holder of Office Depot. That means that's one of their more trusted employees. He used Office Depot resources to get video footage of me, and then in his free time defame my character by pretending that I was stealing from stores. Defamation, like the defamation part is them accusing me of stealing.
Now, the idea of Jordie filing a defamation lawsuit is admittedly kind of hilarious when you think about it. His entire online presence up to this point has practically been a masterclass in public self-destruction. The internet didn't really need to defame Wings. He's been doing that job better than anyone else ever could. However, 2020 wasn't entirely about drama. There were brief moments where Wings actually tried to get his life back on track. In mid-July, he announced that he was back on his diet, eating healthy, and had even lost some weight. But as always, it didn't take long before he slipped back into the same cycle of overeating. Within just 2 weeks, he had abandoned the diet altogether.
I have lost weight. I've lost 140 pounds. But my goal weight was 250, and I didn't make that. And I've gained probably 20 pounds back since then. And like, I don't like where I'm at because I don't want to be going back up, but I am going back up, and I'm struggling to change my eating habits.
This time, he blamed the trolls. According to Wings, the constant harassment was pushing him to the edge. He claimed that troll pages were stealing his photos from YouTube, adding racist captions to them, and spreading them online. He repeatedly stated that he never said those things, but the internet had already made up its mind about him.
We were talking about how deep the hate goes. Like, let me tell you exactly. Like, I understand I'm boring. I understand that I failed weight loss surgery. I understand that everybody's severely disappointed in me, right? But you guys take it too far. You take it too far. Let me give you an example of what they're doing to me right now. They're taking pictures that I put on my Twitter, right? And they're putting racist messages on them, and they're sending them to local Black Lives Matter groups in my area. Like, they're getting into these groups on Facebook and then posting these pictures claiming that they're from other places in my other groups in my area. You laugh. This is stuff that will get you killed.
Around this same time, the harassment reached new levels. People began sending police to his house under false charges, a cruel act of swatting that became disturbingly common for him. To make things worse, his grandmother passed away during this period. It briefly earned him a bit of sympathy, but as you might have guessed by now, Wings' trolls are relentless. They never gave him a moment to breathe. When Wings' grandmother passed away, he uploaded an emotional video where he broke down in tears while recalling his last memories of her. In the video, he explained that he had avoided visiting her in her final days because he didn't want to remember her that way. According to him, the only reason he went to see her at all was because she specifically asked for him. On top of that, he admitted that he didn't see her body after she passed and didn't want to attend her funeral. It was a moment that showed a more vulnerable side of Wings, one that seemed genuinely broken, but it also became yet another talking point for his critics, who used even this tragedy as fuel for more ridicule.
Or when she was on hospice, and she knew who I was, but she couldn't talk. And I have to remember that my whole life. And you got assholes that come in here and try to go into my face that I didn't go to her funeral.
A lot of trolls saw Wings' decision not to attend his grandmother's funeral as a complete sign of weakness. They mocked him, insulted him, and treated his grief like another opportunity to attack. To them, It wasn't just a bad decision. It was proof that he was a failure as a grandson, as a man, and as a person. Many online commentators argued that because his grandmother had practically raised him, it was his responsibility to be there in her final moments, to stand beside his family and to pay his respects one last time. They believed that choosing not to go was selfish, immature, and cowardly, and the trolls made sure he knew it. They flooded his comment sections, dug up old clips, and twisted his words to make it seem like he didn't care about her at all. But when you look past all the noise and actually try to understand Wings as a person, things start to make a little more sense. His reaction wasn't about disrespect, and it certainly wasn't because he didn't love his grandmother. From what we've seen of him over the years, Wings is someone who struggles deeply with emotional confrontation. He's the kind of person who avoids pain at all costs. Whenever something difficult comes up, whether it's his weight issues, the relentless trolling, or his own personal failures, his first instinct is to run from it. He doesn't want to face it because every time he has, it's ended badly. Of course, the internet didn't see it that way. The trolls only saw weakness, but in reality, what Wings showed was avoidance, something that has defined him for most of his life. Rather than confronting the pain of losing his grandmother, he did what he always does. He shut down emotionally and looked for distractions, whether it was gaming, food, or getting caught up in new drama online. Wings used those things to escape what he didn't want to feel. It's tragic in a way, because behind all the controversies and outbursts, you can see someone who never really learned how to deal with pain in a healthy way. The death of his grandmother could have been a turning point for him, a chance to reconnect with his emotions and his family. But instead, it became another chapter in the ongoing cycle of denial, anger, and self-destruction that's followed him for years. Now, like we said before, this was also the era when Wings' trolls were more viciously active than ever. Old clips of him talking about children, race, and animals started resurfacing. And trust us when we say, you are not prepared for how bad some of it gets. But before we dive into all that, let's first talk about the animal abuse part of the story. For those of you who followed Jordie since the beginning of his career, you'll know that he had 2 cats and a dog. One of his dogs was called Bingo. He had another cat we don't know the name of, and a cat named Rocco. Later on, when he married Kelly, the couple also adopted a puppy named Bailey. On the surface, it seemed like a sweet little family setup, but behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect as they appeared.
And I already have 2 cats and Bongo. Right? The reason we got the puppy is I got married.
It would be safe to say that all of these poor animals were neglected, and at times, even abused. Viewers often noticed odd moments during his live streams, like his pets crying or barking in the background, sometimes for minutes on end, and Wings would respond with irritation or anger. There were clips of him yelling at them, which of course the trolls wasted no time clipping and spreading across the internet. In several instances during his live streams, Wings himself has admitted to some truly disturbing acts of animal abuse. In one particular stream, he recalled a story from his childhood where he went outside to play with a kitten. He said he was playing peekaboo with it, placed a 5-gallon bucket over the kitten, and then forgot to let it out. The kitten eventually died. What made the whole thing even more horrifying was the way he recounted the story, with absolutely no sense of the guilt or remorse. It was unsettling to watch and left many viewers shocked and disgusted.
I was shooting basketball, and this cat comes along. We had these 5-gallon buckets, so I took a 5-gallon bucket, and I was like, bloop, and I basically I left the bucket on top of him because the cat couldn't move the bucket, and he.
In another instance, Wings shared yet another disturbing story. He said that he once found out how kittens always seem to land on their feet when they fall, and out of curiosity, he decided to test that theory. He admitted to finding a kitten and repeatedly throwing it around to see if it would keep landing upright. Tragically, the kitten ended up breaking its neck.
He ended up dying. And I just watched a video, Kittens and Caboodles, and it told me kittens always land on their feet. So I took this cat and I kept throwing him up to see if he'd land on his feet. Well, eventually the cat broke its neck.
Oh my gosh.
Once again, you can hear him almost laughing while recounting the story of how he broke a kitten's neck. It's hard to imagine what kind of mindset a person would have to find something like that funny, let alone speak about it as if it were something to be proud of. But disturbingly, that's still not the worst thing he's admitted to. In another live stream, Wings told viewers about a time he had a dying dog at home. Instead of paying $70 for euthanasia, he said he took the dog to a swamp, shot it with a rifle, and left it there. He even mentioned that he couldn't understand why people would spend money to put their pets down, because in his mind, that was the right way to do it. The sheer lack of empathy in how he described it left viewers completely horrified.
You guys ever put a dog to sleep?
Yes.
Yeah? How did you choose the time?
Rifle.
Yeah, well, you know, we take them to the vet, and then they what they
Screw
did
that
with the last
shit.
dog.
You're gonna pay $70 for a $2 bullet.
That'll be okay.
I guess I'm more frugal than Kyle. I just cannot fathom paying $70 for somebody else to kill a dog.
I wonder if you think about the dog in the same way that I do. You don't go in the back of your subdivision by the swing set where 5 neighbors can see your yard and start.
No, you take him to the swamp. You live in North Carolina. There's swamps in North Carolina. I guarantee it. There's one called Hunting Swamp. It's about 6 miles from here. There's a bridge. You go there, you let them out, you shoot them, let them draw right out into the swamp.
And then you let them, just fall into the swamp?
Fall into the swamp.
Yeah, I'm not doing it that way.
Overall, he comes across as extremely cruel to animals. There are multiple moments from his live streams where viewers watched him treat his pets callously and then shrug it off as nothing. On one occasion, he apparently stepped on a pet and immediately insisted it wasn't his fault, as if the animal's pain was irrelevant.
All these people laughing about it are the same people that don't drive V8 Mustangs. What are you doing? Here. Again, I didn't run over her. She got scared.
In another stream, when his dog was barking, he lost his temper, began shouting at the animal, saying racial slurs, while his wife pleaded with him to stop, and even threatened to throw the dog out, a threat that chilled many viewers. We also think that he threw water at the dog, saying the dog was getting on his nerves, and that he was too busy with millions of other things to deal with them.
Last day of nerves, I'm busy screaming and everybody's barking.
She's barking because hey, Jordie, there's water in there.
I'm about to throw her out the door.
She's barking because someone came in the door. Oh my god.
She does that shit again, she's out of the house.
Stop.
What shit are you guys, bro? Hold on, I'm busy doing a million things here. Out in the street.
Taken together, these episodes paint a pattern of neglect and hostility that made a lot of people uncomfortable and outraged. And that pattern is an important, grim part of the Wings story you're telling. Soon enough, entire threads were made accusing Wings of mistreating his pets. People began calling him cruel, heartless, and unfit to own animals. Some trolls even tried to contact local authorities to report him. Wings, on the other hand, denied all of it, insisting that his trolls were twisting things just to make him look bad. However, circling back to 2020, around this time, another major event hit Wings hard. He was perma-banned from Twitch and lost his partner status. Now, the exact reason behind the ban was never officially confirmed by Twitch, but fans and Reddit sleuths were quick to start digging, and what they found was interesting, to say the least. Apparently, Wings' partnership was terminated for violating something referred to as Exhibit D in Twitch's partnership agreement. Now, we don't really know what Exhibit D specifically covers, but according to Reddit theories and archive discussions, it all boiled down to Wings admitting that he had a backup Twitch account in case his main one got taken down. Some people on Reddit also said that he was actually using his wife's account with her mask on, which is why Twitch banned him. That alone was enough to raise red flags for Twitch, since having or promoting alternate accounts to avoid bans is a direct violation of the platform's terms of service. Things got even worse when Twitch allegedly discovered that his backup account was linked to his wife Kelly's profile. This connection made it look like he was trying to circumvent a potential suspension through her account, which ultimately led to the termination of his partnership altogether. After losing her partnership, Wings even posted a screenshot of a message he received from Twitch and wrote, "Really? How was I ban evading? I had nothing to do with my wife's channel. There wasn't even a stream done on it. For someone like Wings, whose entire livelihood depended on streaming, this was catastrophic. Losing his Twitch partner status meant losing not only his income, but also his last shred of legitimacy as a creator. To make things worse, the trolls celebrated it like it was a national holiday, clipping his reactions and posting memes. For Wings, it was another massive blow in a year already filled with chaos, controversy, and emotional breakdowns. Wings himself admitted that even though he could still stream on Twitch, losing his partnership actually resulted in him losing a lot of his revenue, which he made through Twitch. This eventually led to an eventual rant, a meltdown where he asked people to stop bothering him. He also said that he was broke, and he had no means to support his wife financially. Speaking of his wife, there's a lot to unpack there. Let's just say that Jordie and Kelly are often regarded on YouTube as one of the most toxic couples the internet has ever seen. Their marriage has been a chaotic mix of neglect, resentment, and public drama. On one hand, Jordie has often been accused of being emotionally distant, rude, and downright neglectful toward Kelly. But on the other hand, Kelly wasn't exactly a saint either. There have been rumors and even admissions of her cheating on him, and the two have had countless public arguments that played out in front of their viewers. One particular incident that really stood out was in this video by Sean Ranklin. Wings is seen sitting at his computer, streaming and playing games, while his wife is visibly upset and eventually breaks down crying, all on stream. The timing made it even worse. This stream happened right after the passing of his grandmother, and Kelly seemed to want him to attend what many believe was a remembrance gathering or family event. At the start of the stream, Jordie even mentioned that he had somewhere to go, but decided to squeeze in a quick stream before leaving. Then at the last minute, he announced he wasn't going at all.
I'm just trying to squeeze a stream in before I gotta go do the celebration of life thing.
Kelly can be heard off screen pleading with him to come with her, trying to convince him to shut off the computer and go. But Jordie, being Jordie, completely ignored her. He told her he couldn't even take 5 minutes away from his stream, as if sitting in front of his chat room was more important than his own family or his wife's feelings. It was an uncomfortable and downright depressing moment to witness. A man so wrapped up in his own world of gaming and internet drama that he couldn't even step away to support his wife, or honor his grandmother's memory. It perfectly sums up how detached and self-absorbed he can be, and just how broken their relationship had become.
I'm streaming right now.
You gonna get off at 12 still?
No,
Why?
it's not. What? What are you looking at me for?
What's going on?
Nothing.
I want to talk to you.
We'll talk when I'm done streaming.
When will that be?
I don't know.
So you want to just kind of wait around?
I texted you and said that I wasn't going to the thing that
Yeah,
you
but you text me 15 minutes before I should be here and ready.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Maybe that was a little late.
Might have been. I don't know.
Can you not take like a 5-minute break?
No, because it's going to be more than a 5-minute conversation.
He actually pushed Kelly to the point where she broke down crying. And what did Jordie do? Nothing. He just sat there letting her cry while he kept his stream going. The most disturbing part was that her sobs could be clearly heard through the microphone, echoing across the live stream for everyone watching. Yet he didn't flinch, didn't comfort her, didn't even acknowledge it. He just kept sitting there like nothing was happening, as if her pain meant absolutely nothing. And when he finally decided to end the stream, it wasn't out of guilt or concern. He simply said, almost casually, that he had to end the stream. It was one of those moments that made viewers realize just how cold and disconnected he can be, especially toward the people closest to him.
Can you please stop?
Will you please stop?
Please stop.
I'm good with you shutting me out.
Whatever. Hey, so what are you doing, bud? He's like staring at me. Hey, Mr. Dad, thank you for subscribing.
And guess what? Not even an hour after making his wife cry like her whole world was ending, he's suddenly sitting in the car with her, acting like everything's fine. Then with complete confidence, he says she even cries because of the change in bariatric pressure. Now, we don't know if Wings realized this, but bariatric has to do with weight loss surgery, not weather. So either he just invented a whole new branch of science, or he's proving once again that the English language doesn't stand a chance when he's around. Still, the wildest part isn't even the slip-up. It's how casually he brushed off his wife's emotions like nothing ever happened.
What they don't understand is my wife will cry at the change in bariatric pressure in the atmosphere.
The whole situation was honestly just very, very off, and it made a lot of people question what kind of marriage this even is, and how Wings actually treats Kelly behind the scenes. Even people on the PKA podcast brought it up, pointing out that Kelly's reaction seemed like a clear sign of emotional issues, possibly anxiety or deep frustration from constantly being ignored. She came across as someone sensitive and overwhelmed, and for someone like that, dealing with Jordie is almost impossible. He's so self-centered and wrapped up in his own world that there's barely any space left for anyone else, not even his wife.
This is something that someone with, like an anxiety kind of issue usually does. They'll ponder over it, stew over it, then last minute they're like, I can't do it. I'm just gonna.
Oh, that's him. That's 100% him. He does this thing where like he's a real worrier and super pessimistic about things. And especially if it's something he doesn't want to do. Like Taylor was talking about how like the day before he's gonna like do a big workout, he's like making all these elaborate plans and like aiming high. And I think Wings sometimes does the opposite. He's like, oh, if I do this, then all of these awful things can happen.
Another reason this whole incident hit so hard was that the event Jordie was refusing to attend wasn't just some random gathering. It was his grandmother's remembrance ceremony. He had already admitted to skipping her funeral, and now he didn't even want to show up for the remembrance. That moment really painted a picture of someone who seemed to care about no one but himself. This was the same grandmother who had supported him through much of his life, the one who took him in, provided for him, and even let him live with her well into his 30s and 40s. And yet, after she passed away, he couldn't even be bothered to show up, help plan her funeral, or attend a single event in her memory. It's honestly disgusting behavior. Not just disrespectful, but deeply cold. However, circling back to the marriage, it's important to note that Wings wasn't the only one being toxic in this relationship. Whether it was because of how cold and distant he was toward Kelly, or for some other reason we can only speculate about, Kelly had her own share of messy behavior too. She was actually exposed in a leaked video that showed her having some flirty conversations with one of Wings' Discord moderators. The situation blew up fast, even being discussed on the PKA podcast.
Had been carrying on sort of a flirty relationship with some of his moderators, his Twitch moderators, I suppose,
Discord
in the Twitch moderator Discord that they have. And like to the point where like they were driving together and she wouldn't show him her phone because she's like having like private conversation with one of his mods.
Things got so tense that at one point, Kelly reportedly refused to even show Jordie her phone because she was afraid he'd find out what was going on. Jordie kept demanding to know who the person was so he could demote them from his server. And in a twisted turn of events, he eventually reacted to the leaked messages himself during a stream. And let's just say, he didn't have much of a defense for her behavior.
Like, you boo, I love you. This is right here is honest flirting. This again, honest flirting. This is one day after Valentine's Day, and I just bought her diamond earrings. Look at the dates. See, January 30th, can we call, this could be anybody adding the text here. This is when Joe Man came to visit us, and I don't know what they're trying to get right here. It says yes.
Anyway, after those leaked conversations surfaced, it seems the two finally had a serious talk about their relationship. From what we can tell, they decided it was best not to part ways. Probably because at that point both sides were equally horrible. Shortly after, Kelly posted on her social media saying that she still loves Jordie, but that she hopes to be wiser with her actions in the future. She wrote, "I love Jordie. I am not cheating on my husband. I am not talking to anyone in any type of way that could be misconstrued. Yes, there are some things that were taken out of context, and I am currently having to deal with that. Trust me, I'll be wiser in the future." And while Kelly was out here saying she'd be wiser in the future, there was no such guarantee for Wings himself. One incident that really went viral was the time he literally threw Kelly and power slammed her, all because of an argument involving Keemstar. Yes, you heard that right. Now the full details are a bit messy, but from what people could gather, this all happened during a Lolcow livestream. Wings was apparently trying to start a fight with Keemstar. We think Boogie was there too, along with a few others. Things escalated quickly, and during the shouting match, Wings suddenly got up and rushed toward Keemstar as if he was actually going to fight him. Kelly clearly panicked, tried to step in and stop him, but instead of calming down, Wings shoved her and ended up slamming her onto a table. The clip was shocking to watch. Pure chaos, full of yellings and noise and aggression. It wasn't just disturbing, it was one of those moments that made people seriously uncomfortable, especially anyone sensitive to scenes of violence or domestic conflict. It wasn't drama anymore, it was just sad, disturbing, and downright degenerate behavior on display for the entire internet to see.
The brand, sabotage.
I'm not sabotaging the brand for a lie that you made.
Yeah, yeah, you are.
You creating a lie sabotaging the brand.
And you're even calling it a lie. You know,
it's a fucking lie.
You're even calling it a lie.
What part of it is not a lie?
Calling it a fucking
what
lie.
part of it's not a fucking lie?
It's
Tell me which part of it.
It's not a
Look
lie.
right
It
there.
was a setup.
That's not a setup.
And
It's a fucking lie.
why are you getting loud in my face?
Because I fucking can.
Dude, are you fucking serious? You better stop.
Hey,
you better stop. You better stop. You better.
Hey! That's your fucking wife now. Go calm down. That's your wife, man. Go calm down. That's your wife they're hurting now. Calm down. Stop getting in front of me. Please don't.
Fuck away from her. Get the fuck away from her. What is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Go calm down. Go calm down.
That's your fucking lie.
Why are you lying about me? What's the lie? Sometimes you lash out when you feel like you made a mistake or other people do.
You might think this is the most chaotic Wings can get, but wait, there's more. Because as trolls began digging up his old statements, things quickly went from bad to downright stomach-turning. What they found made people lose any last shred of sympathy for him. Watching these old clips, hearing the vile and disturbing, creepy, downright pedophilic things he said, it's hard not to feel disgusted. The man went from being just another internet clown to someone genuinely hard to defend. It's the kind of stuff that makes you sit back and wonder how anyone could ever say these things out loud, let alone broadcast them to the world. The very first comment that truly horrified everyone was a clip where Wings casually said that the age of consent should be 12. Yes, 12. Hearing that come out of his mouth left people stunned. Not just because it was disturbing, but because he said it with zero hesitation, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. That one statement alone was enough to make people rethink everything they'd ever thought about him. It wasn't trolling, it wasn't a joke. It was just flat out disgusting.
Talk about the age of consent 12 clip, right? Do you know what that context is? Like, what was I talking about before I said that?
Yeah, you've explained it. You said something about people being charged for having with girls that are like 16 while they're 19 or something.
We were talking about this case where this boy was 18 years old and he had a 17-year-old girlfriend, but her parents didn't like him, and she ended up giving him fellatio. His parents, because she was 17 and he was 18, hit him with statutory rape and made him a offender for the rest of his life, and I didn't agree with that.
Are you kidding me? That is the context?
And I said, like, the age of consent should be like 12. And then years later, I came back and explained why I said 12.
I'm done. I kicked his ass. Listen.
In the context of that,
I'm done. No, I'm done. If you come here with proof that Wings is a predator, bring proof that he's a predator. Like, I'm sorry, Wings 007, but you failed.
We did a little bit of digging and found that the first time he actually made those comments about the age of consent was way back in 2013. And honestly, he should have just left it there. But no, he had the audacity to keep doubling down over the years, defending his statements with the most brain-rotting logic imaginable. He claimed that adults shouldn't be charged with statutory rape, and even went as far as to say child porn shouldn't be illegal. His justification? That young girls are already having, so there's supposedly nothing wrong with a 19-year-old being with a 14-year-old. That's not just ignorant, it's outright horrifying. Hearing him say things like that makes your stomach turn.
I did say the age of consent should be 12. You know why I said that? Because growing up in high school, I knew girls that were like 12, 13, 14 on the regular.
Brought the topic up. Remember, I was like, we were brainstorming for topics, and
yeah, child pornography is such a loosely based thing. But even 16 at 45, I'd let that slide, because a 16-year-old can make her own damn decisions. I'd cut child pornography off around 12.
Jersey, North Carolina.
Whoa.
Another deeply concerning aspect of his online behavior is the way he has interacted with individuals who are significantly younger than him, including minors. He once had a 13-year-old boy whom he streamed. On top of that, he also had underage girls he played with. There have been documented instances where he communicated and played online games with people who were underage, and some of his remarks toward them were highly inappropriate for an adult to make. Even when he tried to justify his statements by referencing technicalities around legal age, the repeated focus on these topics and the tone of his comments raised serious ethical and moral concerns. We came across this clip from one of his streams where he is flirting with these girls, and he completely led these kids on, which he, as an adult, should not be doing at all. All in all, the way they talked and interacted with these girls was just weird and creepy.
You know, technically the police don't look at that way. I'll tell you about that girl that got a felony for every piece of meat she got caught with.
But it wasn't yours. No.
Yo, someone just called me a little kid. I'm gonna have to show you my ID because I drink.
You don't drink at 16. Go to on.
Bro, Joy, I swear to God, Joy, I'm gonna drive down to Myrtle Beach or whatever, and we're gonna party.
At one point, he even said that when a girl says no 3 times, it means yes.
Yo, if she don't say yes the first time.
Well, let me tell you, Shay, when she says no 3 times, that means yes. So, first of all, Random's chat making a big deal about Wings playing video games with underage people. Need to chill. Like 8% of people play with it. Yeah, y'all never make a big deal when I'm playing with like Braden. He's like 13.
And if that's not bad, he also said something along the line of my size is just more gas tank for the love machine.
Monsieur Legion, would you like to see the French croissant?
What's up?
Hey, y'all might make fun of my 5XLT, but that's just more gas tank for the love machine.
Ooh, I'd like that, Jordie.
Mm-hmm.
Jordie, you're going to jail.
Shay just needs to drive to Myrtle Beach really slow, to like May 30th slow.
And when he was finally confronted about all this, the disturbing comments, the inappropriate interactions, and countless other questionable things he's said over the years, his response was nothing short of appalling. Instead of taking accountability or even showing a shred of remorse, he doubled down in the worst way possible. He actually said, and we quote, that the current generation of women are all heroes.
I flirted with a couple 17-year-old girls in a rainbow lobby because they were being flirtatious? Right? Both girls, by the way, are legal consenting age in the United States of America. Both of them. I made a point that the new generation of females are...
Now, we're not even sure what point he was trying to make there, but given the context, it came off as dismissive and bitter, like he was trying to shift blame instead of owning up to his actions. It was tone-deaf, offensive, and just another reminder of how far gone his mindset really is. And in addition to being the total creep that he is, Wings also happens to be extremely racist. Like not questionable old man comments racist. We're talking recorded on live stream multiple times, saying the most disgusting stuff imaginable. In one of his streams, he actually said that racist people don't really bother him because at least they're upfront about their beliefs.
I want to talk about racism. And I want to talk about why racists do not bother me. A racist generally is a person that is upfront with their beliefs. That's why racism doesn't bother me. If somebody's a racist, at least I know where they stand.
Yeah, that's his logic. As if being openly hateful somehow makes it respectable. He said things so out of line that even his own viewers were stunned into silence. It's not just one slip-up or a bad joke taken out of context. It's a consistent pattern of ignorance and ugliness that he's never taken responsibility for. There have also been multiple instances of him saying the N-word, teasing his audience with racist remarks.
Was not done. Did they go Bitcoin farm?
Not sure. Hold on for, I got my drone here. Give me 1 second. It's coming in right now.
That's a big negatory. They're not up. They're not second floor.
Okay.
No, I'm out. Keep going, dude. Fuck that nigga. Oh my lord, I hate him. I hate him.
And if all that wasn't enough, he's also openly homophobic. We pulled all of these clips for a compilation video on YouTube, and in one particularly disturbing stream, he even said that if his son turned out to be gay, he'd beat it out of him until the kid pretended to be straight.
Let me say this: if my kids grow up to be gay, I'm beating the shit out of them.
Really? That'll beat them straight. Yeah, that'll make them straight. Trust me.
No, look here. There's 2 choices in life.
Wings.
You pretend you're straight, or I beat you to death.
Hearing something like that from a grown man with an audience is terrifying. It's not just ignorant, it's violent, hateful rhetoric that has real-world consequences. That kind of talk reveals a person who's not only prejudiced, but willing to celebrate or threaten actual harm. And it's yet another reason why so many people have no sympathy left for him. We just want to highlight why what he's saying is so wrong, why it goes beyond being just a joke. Because there are already enough people, enough cultures, enough countries in this world that think underage is okay, that pedophilia is okay, that marrying children is okay, that beating or LGBTQ plus people is somehow acceptable. These are real things happening in the real world. not hypotheticals, not exaggerations. So when someone with a massive platform and an impressionable audience says things like this, it's not funny. It's dangerous. It normalizes violence, fuels ignorance, and makes life even harder for minorities, for people who are already marginalized, already afraid to speak about who they are or who they love. In our opinion, Wings isn't just being edgy or controversial. He's being disgusting. His words have weight, and until he admits how wrong he is, he's only making the world a worse place to live in. One more thing that we read about Wings online is that he admitted to watching child porn once. This page reads, Jordie recounted watching explicit content involving underage individuals. I watched 14-year-old girl suck a horse and she vomited while the horse came on her face, causing further controversy. Jordie's responses range from alleging the videos were edited to admitting they were concocted to appear intriguing. On the Review Tech USA podcast, Jordie tried to justify his remarks by casting doubt on the ages of the individuals in the videos. Honestly speaking, this kind of behavior is beyond disturbing. It's downright disgusting. It's not just the words he says or the things he's done. It's the complete lack of empathy, remorse, or self-awareness that makes it so horrifying. Every time he opens his mouth, he managed to reveal just how twisted his mindset truly is. We're not talking about edgy jokes or dark humor anymore. This is cruelty, ignorance, and hatred disguised as entertainment. His actions show a man who finds amusement in suffering, who belittles others for sport, and who seems incapable of understanding the gravity of his own behavior. It's the type of mentality that corrodes everything around it, spreading toxicity to anyone who watches or supports him. Watching someone act like this on a public platform isn't just uncomfortable, it's revolting, and it speaks volumes about how far some people will go for attention, even if it means throwing away every ounce of basic decency. However, if you think Wings' story ends here, you're completely mistaken, because every time you believe nothing worse could possibly happen somehow, it does, and it happens with a bang. Just when you think the chaos has reached its peak, he managed to take it even further. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash. You want to look away, but the sheer absurdity keeps pulling you back in. Every new chapter of his life seems to outdo the last in terms of drama, controversy, and pure insanity, making it almost unbelievable that one person could be at the center of so much self-inflicted disaster. In February of 2022, Wings of Redemption found himself at the center of one of the most damaging controversies of his entire career. What began as a series of cryptic clips circulated by trolls quickly spiraled into a storm of speculation, allegations, and confusion that would dominate discussions about him for months. The incident began when trolls connected with a man who was later revealed to be named Aaron. According to Aaron, he had known Jordie ever since they were kids. He claimed he lived only a few streets over from the Jordan family and was close enough with them to be familiar with their private lives.
Yeah, pretty much his whole life. Yeah, I live right down the street from him. He only stays like 2 roads over from me.
He went on to say that he had been friends with Jordie's brother and that Jordie's mother was his best friend.
But my mother, who's his mother's best friend, I'm assuming wouldn't tell me a lie about it.
These details about Aaron's connection to the family would later be confirmed as true, which gave his statements a troubling sense of credibility, even before the full story was understood. Aaron's appearance in the trolling community came in the form of a recorded conversation, which, according to those involved, originally lasted anywhere between 2 to 4 hours. However, the first clip to surface was heavily edited. What viewers initially saw was a short, cut-down version that stripped away context and gave the impression that Aaron was accusing Jordie of something extremely serious, an inappropriate relationship with his younger sister, who at the time of the supposed incident would have been around 13 years old. The way this edited clip was presented all but guaranteed outrage. It spread quickly, with viewers convinced they were hearing an admission or a confirmation of behavior far beyond trolling. Aaron's wording in the chopped up segment implied that there had been some dark family secret, one involving Jordie and his sister, and that Aaron himself had learned about it through Jordie's mother. He said that when he had asked her directly about it, she refused to answer, but that he had somehow found out from her anyway. He claimed that she had told him Jordie said something inappropriate to his sister, and when confronted, simply responded that he didn't care because it was true.
Is the rumors about because there was rumors going around through the family about possible on his sister.
What? Say it again, Wings?
Don't feel the shame if you got to jerk your shit to your sister.
He had either said, I believe that he said something extremely inappropriate. And when he was called on it when she confronted him about what he had said, he said that he didn't care what he said because what he said wasn't a lie. And it was some straight up inappropriate shit to be saying about your 13-year-old sister.
To make matters worse, this bombshell was linked back to a moment from Jordie's own past. Years earlier, on stream, he had made a tasteless joke about incest. He had said, half laughing, that you don't have to be ashamed if you jerk your to your sister, clearly meant as shock humor. At the time, it was already something trolls latched onto, repeating it endlessly as ammunition against him. Now, with Aaron's heavily edited accusations circulating, that old clip was brought back into the spotlight and reframed as a potential evidence of something more sinister. The impact was immediate. The internet took the clip at face value, and rumors spread that Wings had been accused of abusing his sister. For his trolls, this was the ultimate weapon, not just a rage compilation or a bad outburst, but an allegation so serious that it could destroy his reputation permanently. But even at this early stage, the story was far from clear. The initial video that spread across social media was cut in such a way that context was missing, and much of what Aaron said was left vague. In fact, according to some of the trolls themselves, Aaron had been the one to approach them, not the other way around. This raised questions about his motives and why he chose to come forward in this way. In it, Aaron seemed to be saying outright that Wings' mother had told his mom that Jordie had been inappropriate with his sister, and that Jordie had admitted it when confronted. Even though later clarifications showed inconsistencies in his story, the viral moment could not be erased. For Wings, this controversy was unlike anything he had faced before. Troll raids, swatting, and endless harassment were one thing, but accusations of this magnitude struck at his personal life, his family, and his very character. Whether people believed it or not, the allegation itself was enough to create a lasting stain on his reputation, one that trolls would continue to invoke in order to undermine him. After the initial video with Aaron circulated online, speculation reached a fever pitch. The allegations being implied were so serious that Wings could not afford to stay silent. Almost immediately, Jordie reached out to Aaron directly, hoping to confront him and clear the air. Screenshots of their text exchanges would later surface, giving viewers a rare glimpse into how he was dealing with the situation behind the scenes. In those messages, Jordie pressed Aaron, asking why he would spread lies about him. He told Aaron directly that the claims made in the video were not only false, but also easily disproven. He accused Aaron of assassinating his character and defaming his name, making clear how much damage the situation was causing. For Wings, this was more than trolling. These were accusations that cut into his personal life and reputation, and he wanted answers. Aaron's replies complicated things further. According to the screenshots, he told Wings that it had been the trolls who had approached him first, not the other way around. This directly contradicted earlier claims floating around in the community, where trolls insisted that Aaron had sought them out to tell his story. Even more importantly, Aaron said he had not given consent to be recorded during the call that eventually went public. He insisted that everything had been taken out of context, framed in a way that made it sound far worse than it really was. These statements raised red flags about the authenticity of the entire situation. If Aaron was telling the truth, then the trolls had selectively edited his words to craft a narrative designed to destroy Wings' reputation. If the trolls were telling the truth, then Aaron was backtracking to avoid the backlash of what he had said. Either way, the inconsistencies created confusion, leaving the audience unsure of who to believe. Another point of contention came down to the length of the recording itself. Aaron claimed that his conversation with the trolls had lasted around 3 hours in total. However, the longest version of the call that was ever released online was only about 2 hours in length. This discrepancy casts even more doubt on the situation. Had Aaron simply misremembered the length of the discussion, or were the trolls deliberately withholding parts of the recording that might have changed the meaning of what was said? Given that all versions of the videos have since been deleted, the truth of what was left out remains uncertain. The entire controversy quickly took on an almost surreal quality. On one hand, you had Aaron appearing in an edited video, seemingly accusing Wings of unthinkable behavior. On the other hand, you had Aaron privately telling Wings that his words were twisted, that he hadn't agreed to be recorded, and that trolls had been the ones manipulating the situation. Both sides contradicted each other, and neither provided definitive proof. For Wings, however, the damage was already done. By the time these text exchanges surfaced, the initial edited clip had already spread far and wide, shaping public perception before context could be added. In the court of public opinion, first impressions often stick, and the story that people saw first was the story of a man being accused of horrifying actions by someone who claimed to know him since childhood. Even if Aaron's later clarification painted a different picture, it was too little, too late. The conflicting accounts left the situation unresolved. Viewers were left to pick which version of events they believed. The trolls' heavily edited clips, or Aaron's text to Wings, insisting that everything was distorted. What was certain, though, was that the incident had further cemented the chaotic and controversial nature of Wings' career, where half-truths, edited clips, and viral outrage often mattered more than facts. Soon after the controversy erupted, Aaron released a video apologizing for the things he had said. He admitted openly that he had lied, clarifying that his mother had never told him anything about Jordie, nor was there any family secret to expose. Aaron admitted he fabricated the story, and even confessed that he didn't know why he had done it in the first place. He asked for forgiveness and acknowledged the damage caused by his false claims.
Hello, my name is Aaron, and I'd like to say that I'm doing this on my own accord. Everything that I said about Jordie and his family was lies. I lied through my teeth. It was wrong of me to do. I shouldn't have done it. I didn't hear any of the information from anybody else. It was all me. And I apologize. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry to Jordie and your family. I'm very sorry to everyone that's been hurt by these lies. I shouldn't have done it. It was wrong of me. I apologize. Very sincerely apologize. I did what I did and I said what I said. Unfortunately, I can't take back what I did. If I could, I would. But I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry for any pain that I may have caused you guys, and did cause you guys. My mother didn't have anything to do with any of the shit that was said. I lied about all of it. Sorry. Every single piece of it was a lie. And I don't even have a good explanation as to why I even did it. It's just, I just did. I'm sorry I lied. And hopefully Jordie and his family will forgive me.
Later, Aaron appeared on a live stream with Wings to address the situation more directly. During the broadcast, Jordie's mother called in. Clearly furious, she confronted Aaron for spreading lies about her son and made it known that she was sick of all the internet drama being dragged into their family's lives. Her anger added weight to the apology, as Aaron continued to backpedal and admit fault in front of an audience.
Hey, you're being recorded right now, Mama, so...
No, I ain't talking to you. I ain't getting on that shit.
He's right here. You gotta talk to him.
I'm attempting
All these lies needs to be straightened out right now.
I'm attempting to. They clipped a whole bunch of things that were said over 4 hours out of context to make this video.
Yeah, but I'm not getting trolled. I'm sick of this internet shit.
I am too. And I apologize. If this shit caused anybody any problems, I apologize. I want to let you know that.
Majority y'all, that come up between y'all need to tell it.
We are.
So, Mama,
We're
well, I got
trying
you
to figure
here.
it out.
Did I move to my grandparents because I diddled Taylor?
Yeah, no.
Later, Aaron and Wings directly addressed the video during a live stream. This was where much of the controversy came to a head. One of the most infamous parts of the original troll-edited clips was Aaron claiming that Wings himself had once said he didn't care. In the context presented by the trolls, it was framed as if Wings had been dismissing serious allegations about himself. But when confronted about it live, Aaron backtracked. He claimed that this section of the recording was heavily edited and taken out of context. According to him, he hadn't even been referring to the Wings in the first place. Instead, he said he had been talking about another individual entirely, a man named James.
He said that he didn't care what he said because...
Now, this was a completely different person I was talking about in the conversation. Because they were trying to bring up that age of consent, and they knew that he had a younger sister, and they were trying to say all this stuff about him with this molesting his sister, supposedly, or whatever the hell they wanted to try and spin there. And what I was talking about was another fellow that I know, James, that...
As the stream continued, Aaron went on to address other segments of the troll video that had gone viral. In one part, the trolls had asked Aaron hypothetical questions about Wings' personal life, including his marriage.
This was a scenario brought up by them. They said, well, do you think that Wings' wife married him for his property or for his money or for this or for that, or that he did the other? And I was spinning on what they were saying. I gave my hypothetical on the shit too. Like I said, it was in conversation. This shit shouldn't have been mallyhacked and put on the freaking internet. Dumb shit, bro.
In the interview, without any signs of coaxing, he says this.
I'm trying to be funny with
and she's heavy trolling on the dude. She's heavy trolling him.
They suggested scenarios to him, leading Aaron to speculate in ways that seemed damning when cut together. For example, Aaron claimed in the troll-edited video that Wings' wife, Kelly, might only be with him for financial reasons. He even described a supposed encounter at Walmart where, according to him, Kelly had gone on a 20-minute rant about how much Wings snores, how disgusting his habits were, and how difficult it was living with him.
Trying to be funny with
And she's heavy trolling on the dude. She's heavy trolling him. Like, all the time. I bumped into her at Walmart one time, and she went on a 20-minute tirade about how he's a disgusting pig, and he stinks, and when he sleeps, he snores. How uncomfortable it is fucking living with the guy. Like, like, why in the f*** are you married?
He also threw in a comment about how Wings had probably only married her to get tax breaks.
I'd say it's about mutual. I feel like the marriage was to get at each other, really. He also wants a little bit of a tax break, because if he's married and his wife's there as a burden, he can claim more tax money. Yeah, oh yeah. All she has to do is do a basic 9 to 5 for 25 hours, and he can just piggyback off her health insurance.
During the live stream, however, Aaron once again tried to backpedal. He claimed that this section of the clip had been deceptively cut and strung together by trolls to make it sound far worse than it was. He insisted the way it was presented online didn't reflect the full context of what had actually been said. To Aaron, the video was a hit piece, crafted specifically to create maximum outrage.
You could tell throughout that whole entire thing that this shit was all clipped up together. Like I said, man, is when you hear it like this, put out there like this, I mean, what am I supposed to say to this?
But Wings wasn't about to let those explanations go unchallenged. In front of the audience, he clapped back strongly, pointing out inconsistencies in Aaron's defense. Wings explained that he had years of editing experience himself, and he knew what audio cuts sounded like. To his ears, the troll video only had a few edits, not the heavy manipulation Aaron was claiming. He bluntly told Aaron that the excuses didn't add up.
I can tell you right now, this clip is very convincing. That's why I jumped on this so quickly. Because, like, I'm not a professional editor by any means, but I've been editing video for 14 years.
But they got this,
and I can hear video edits and audio and things like that, and I only caught 2.
Wings also tore apart the Walmart story in particular. According to Wings, Aaron and Kelly had never once met privately. The only time Aaron and Kelly had crossed paths at a Walmart, Wings himself had been there too. And even then, it had been a brief encounter lasting no more than 1 or 2 minutes.
So why did you feel the need that to put words in my wife's mouth? Because she's upset at you too, right? So you had almost 2 minutes of my wife. Because the way the video states is that you met my wife by herself at Walmart, which is correct. I was with her.
You were with us.
And we talked a total of maybe a minute.
Yeah, a minute and a half, yeah.
And there's literally more time on this video of my wife telling you stuff
than happened, yeah.
Than actually than the conversation happened. So you've only met my wife less than a minute in your life.
Less than a minute, yeah.
Right. So like, I just want to put that on the table because, like, to kind of prove.
There had never been any 20-minute rant, and the idea that Kelly would confide in Aaron about her marriage in that way was absurd. From Wings' perspective, this proved that Aaron had been talking out of his ass, regardless of how much editing trolls may or may not have done to the recordings, and that most of what he was saying was fabrication. The confrontation grew tense as Wings pressed Aaron on the holes in his story. The trolls had presented Aaron's words as if they were damning truths, but in real time, Aaron had little to stand on. His explanations were shaky, and his credibility weakened further the more Wings pointed out contradictions. Still, Aaron tried to close the discussion on a softer note. He offered final statements saying that things had been taken out of context, that the trolls had twisted his words, and that he regretted being involved with them at all. After delivering his closing remarks, Aaron left the stream. While he attempted to clear the air, the situation was far from over. The inconsistencies, the edits, and the spectacle of it all ensured that the controversy would continue. Not long after the Aaron controversy, the same trolls who had been fueling the fire came up with yet another way to humiliate Wings. This time, they claimed to have hacked his PlayStation Network account. It wasn't the first time Wings had dealt with hacks or lost access to his gaming profiles, but now the trolls used it as leverage to force him into yet another uncomfortable spectacle. They told him that if he agreed to appear on stream and answer their questions for 30 minutes, they would give the account back. Backed into a corner, Wings reluctantly agreed. He set a 30-minute timer on stream, fully aware that the situation was stacked against him, and allowed the trolls to join.
Let's say, like, minimum, like, 30 minutes to get your PlayStation account back.
Okay, 30 minutes.
Alright, and you're not gonna leave someone, like, says some question that, like, hurts feelings, yeah?
Hey Siri, set a timer for 30 minutes.
From the start, it was clear their intention wasn't to negotiate or return the account. Their real goal was to embarrass him further, to poke and prod until he broke down in front of his audience. The trolls fired off questions designed not to seek answers, but to humiliate. At one point, they brought up a controversial statement Wings had made earlier in the year, that if he had to choose between his wife Kelly and his streaming career, he would choose streaming. They threw this back in his face, trying to frame him as a heartless man who valued money over love.
Alright, I got a question. Well, it's more for both of you, but I'm wondering, what did you mean when you said that you would leave Kelly before quitting streaming?
Wings, visibly exhausted, attempted to explain himself. He said that the original comment had been made when he was under pressure, constantly being hassled by trolls just like he was in that very moment. His point, he insisted, wasn't that he didn't care about his wife. Instead, he was trying to say that streaming was his only source of self-worth. It was the one thing that allowed him to provide financially for his household, and without it, he felt like nothing.
I was getting hassled like by a bunch of people like I am currently, and you guys took it out of context. Well, here's the thing, right? I'm a 400-pound piece of shit, right? Like,
That's a fucking understatement. Yeah, keep going.
and like the only thing I bring to value on this planet is my ability to have stability. I pay my bills, pay my taxes, and that's, in my opinion, that's the only thing I bring to any value to anybody on the world. I have a very low self-esteem version of myself, and if you take that part away from me, where like I have this, you know, where I have to rely on somebody else to pay bills, or I have to live off somebody else, I would have no self-worth whatsoever.
The more he spoke, the more his despair seeped through. Wings admitted in his own way how much the harassment had worn him down. His career was already defined by anger and frustration, but beneath that bluster was a man who struggled deeply with depression. For years, his livelihood had been entangled with the very people who wanted to see him fail, and moments like this highlighted just how much power the trolls had over his life. He had been reduced to defending himself against the cruelest questions, all while the trolls laughed at his pain. As the 30-minute timer drew closer to its end, it became increasingly obvious that the trolls never intended to return his account. They dragged out the conversation, continued throwing insults, and kept trying to corner Wings into saying things that could be clipped and taken out of context. Finally, when the timer ran out and nothing had been resolved, Wings made the call to cut them off. He removed them from the stream, his frustration mixing with resignation. Maybe the trolls had never even had his PSN account to begin with, or maybe they simply wanted to hold it over him without ever making good on their word. Either way, Wings was left humiliated once again.
He left the Discord.
It's past the 30 minutes. Can I hang up now?
Yeah, you go hang up.
Okay.
But the night didn't end there. During this same stream, an old frenemy reappeared, a Keemstar. The history between Wings and Keemstar goes back more than a decade, filled with both heated fights and surprising collaborations. They had insulted each other countless times, yet had also appeared on calls and made content together when it suited them. Their relationship was never stable, swinging constantly between hostility and uneasy cooperation. Now, here he was again, stepping into the chaos. For viewers, it was another surreal twist in the saga of the Wings of Redemption. Keem's presence signaled that things could go in any direction: confrontation, mockery, or even reluctant dialogue. When Keem joined the stream, his approach surprised many viewers. Instead of going straight for conflict, he encouraged Jordie to find a way to embrace and even monetize the trolls.
I just don't get it, Wings. Around the name Wings of Redemption is a circus. Why are you not monetizing the circus? It makes no goddamn sense.
Keem argued that the trolls had become one of the most notable aspects of Wings' content, and that rather than constantly fighting them, he could turn their obsession into a source of income. Wings had dabbled with this idea in the past, but admitted that he was hesitant. His fear was that if he leaned too heavily into it, the harassment would escalate even further. Still, this time he seemed to take Keem's advice more seriously than before. Keem also took time to address the recent Aaron situation. He said that something about the whole ordeal felt off to him. From Keem's perspective, it didn't make sense for Aaron to invent such damaging claims without having anything to gain from it. Jordie agreed, pointing out the inconsistencies in Aaron's stories and reiterating that he had been lying. The exchange didn't settle the controversy, but it added a new layer of doubt and speculation, especially with Keem's large audience now paying attention.
But it just, man, something just doesn't seem right, because there is no reason for this person to do this. There's no clout gained, there's no financial benefit, there is nothing. He even says in this video, I had no reason to lie, I just did it and I'm sorry. I don't even have a reason. Like, That is the most puzzling thing about all of this. Him saying that over and over again.
His mother even said he was lying. My mother, I pulled my mother in on the video and asked her some of the questions, and she said he was lying. I've disputed some of the things he said, and they were all lies.
Just a few days later, the trolls finally released what they claimed to be the full version of the Aaron recording. Unlike the heavily edited clips that had first circulated, this version stretched to around 2 hours. Viewers were eager to hear what exactly Wings had been accused of, especially since Aaron himself had built the situation up with vague allusions and dramatic pauses, making it seem like some dark family secret was about to be exposed. But when the uncut version surfaced, the truth turned out to be far less sinister than the hype suggested. In reality, the accusation centered on something relatively trivial, Wings complaining about his sister. At one point in the conversation, he made a distasteful comment about her body odor during her menstrual cycle. The infamous line, "I don't care since it's true," which trolls had used as supposed proof of something far worse, was revealed to be nothing more than Wings doubling down on his remark about the smell.
Body odor due to her period.
Her anatomy and odor, if what the rumor is true.
So he said
that because she was experiencing her time of the month, that she stunk and that he could smell it, and that's like dogs in heat or something. And his mom, I guess the sister told the mom about it, and then Sabrina went to him and asked him, and he was like, well, women do stink whenever they have that, and blah blah, and you know, that's a natural thing. I don't know what the deal is or what the big deal is. Like, no, dude, you know, the big deal is that it was inappropriate for you to say about your sister.
Hardly the damning revelation that Aaron or the trolls had teased, the big secret boiled down to a crude, inappropriate joke made at his sister's expense. It was offensive and embarrassing, but it was not the kind of scandal the early clips had implied. Instead, the 2-hour video showed Aaron stumbling his way through stories, taking nearly an hour and a half just to reach the central point. By the time he finally got there, the letdown was obvious, and the drama quickly began to fizzle out. Many viewers, even those critical of Wings, realized the situation had been massively blown out of proportion. Aaron's credibility sank further as people recognized how he had deliberately built suspense around something so underwhelming. His performance in the video made it seem like he had been desperate to please the trolls, stretching his story and exaggerating its weight to make himself sound more important. Even members of the PKA podcast, who had covered Wings-related drama for years, commented on the situation. They noted that Aaron had been eager from the very beginning to cozy up to the trolls, seemingly just to find a way to drag Wings down. What was initially presented as a damning expose turned out to be little more than Aaron grasping at straws, and the trolls amplifying it into something it wasn't.
Yeah.
Wings is being accused of doing something to his sister by a longtime family friend. Someone Wings has known in real life is accusing Wings of this, saying that, through hearsay, mind you, he's saying that he heard this, that, and the other, that Wings did something to his sister, and that's why all these other little things fell into place. And so it's like brought up this huge thing. And so Wings is like, bullshit, bro. Come to my house, sit next to me in a chair and answer for what you said about me on the internet to these people. What it really seems like is Wings used to like bully this guy as a kid or something like that, or maybe when they worked at Domino's together, because they worked together as like teenagers at a Domino's for like a good period of time. These guys know each other.
So they were friends
this guy,
for a while. Okay.
Yes,
sorry.
and this grown-ass man approached, like, you know, the investigators from the internet, is like spamming their inboxes on Discord with these paragraphs of like, hey, I'm this guy. I know this about Wings and that about Wings, and I know I grew up with him, and I know his brother, and I know
what a loser.
Like he's and like finally he says something like, and I know something no one knows about his sister, and it's that moment where they stop ignoring him.
The guy desperate for attention, willing to say
the guy
anything.
who's desperate for attention and like trying to hurt Wings, I guess, for some reason, says this, and so that gets their attention, right? They're like, all right, wait, what the? And so for 4 hours they sit and have a recorded conversation with this guy where they told him it was being recorded. Mind you, don't let him slip out of that one either. Here's what happened. Wings at one point, being the uncouth he is, said to his sister, hey, you've got some feminine odor that you need to take care of. That hurt her feelings. She told mom. The mom was like, hey, you can't say that. And he's like, we're all living here together and it smells. All right, boys, that is it.
In the end, the so-called Aaron allegations became another example of how drama surrounding Wings often spiraled far beyond reality. While the trolls treated it as ammunition for harassment, the full recording showed there was no shocking revelation, just an awkward and unkind comment blown into a scandal. Within weeks, the story had already been swept under the rug, remembered more for its build-up than for anything it actually revealed. The trolls did not stop after the Aaron debacle. If anything, their obsession with Jordie only grew. Two of the most notorious figures in this relentless campaign were Wings007 and Gula Kingpin. These names became synonymous with trolling in the Wings community, each carving out their own corner of the internet by fixating on every misstep or a moment of weakness Jordie displayed. What made them stand out was not just their persistence, but their ability to weaponize Wings' own content against him. Wings007 launched a live stream show called Real Talk, a pseudo-podcast built almost entirely around restreaming and reacting to Wings' broadcasts. The format wasn't original, but it was profitable. Wings' name became the fuel that powered another man's platform. Clips of him raging, awkward silences, or controversial comments were rehashed endlessly, and donations poured in. For 007, this was an easy hustle. For Wings, it was theft. In retaliation, Wings attempted to strike back legally and reported 007's Twitch channel for copyright infringement. He argued that his likeness and streams were being stolen and monetized unfairly.
Gotta do one more report. Your boys at Real Talk will probably be real gone.
Whether one agreed with Wings or not, it highlighted just how deep the strange ecosystem around him had become. Trolls weren't just laughing at him anymore. They were building entire revenue streams off his misery. Meanwhile, Gula Kingpin played a different game. Rather than simply restreaming, he focused on striking. At various points, he issued takedowns not only against Wings, but also against 007. This created a bizarre dynamic, where even the trolls were sabotaging each other. Infighting became a constant theme within the community. Some wanted Wings deplatformed entirely, hoping to drive him off the internet for good. Others wanted him to continue streaming so they could keep profiting off his antics. And then there were those who thrived purely on chaos, turning on fellow trolls just as quickly as they would turn on Wings himself. What stood out most was the hypocrisy. The trolls justified their harassment by pointing to Wings' past outbursts, questionable remarks, or general laziness. Yet many of them engaged in behavior far worse than anything they accused him of. In one particularly revealing moment, Gula Kingpin was caught in a call openly admitting to being racist.
I don't trust Martin though.
Why don't you like Martin Luther King?
No.
You don't like him?
I just don't like black people, to be fair.
What don't you like about him?
I don't like them. I don't like that they're criminals. I don't like that they cause trouble. I don't like that they riot over bullshit. I don't like that they cry to get their own way.
So, like, you automatically assume black people are criminals because why?
Because the majority are.
You realize they're a very small percentage of the population outside like Africa, right? What you're construing as like a color situation, that this is how black people act, is really a class situation. People that are poor, impoverished, do things that poor, impoverished people do.
Here was a man who had built his identity around holding Wings accountable, yet he had no problem flaunting his own prejudices. For outsiders, it made the entire scene feel grotesque. People who had no real moral authority dictating the narrative around a man while embodying some of the worst traits imaginable. And yet, strangely, Wings himself began reacting differently. Where years earlier he might have raged, screamed, or completely broken down, this era showed a quieter, almost resigned Jordie. The constant infighting among trolls and the repetitiveness of their tactics made him take them less seriously. His meltdowns, once the centerpiece of troll content, became rarer. He would occasionally clap back, but often with calmer tones than before. This shift created a drought for the troll community. With fewer viral rage clips, their channels stagnated. Ironically, Wings' ability to remain relatively calm hurt them just as much as it hurt him. Neither side was pulling in the same numbers or revenue they once did. It was in the strange lull that Wings made an unexpected move. He announced he would be stepping into the boxing ring. His opponent would be none other than fellow YouTuber Boogie2988, another controversial figure in the gaming commentary space. The fight was marketed as a spectacle, two internet punching bags, both mocked for their weight and online personas, finally facing each other in a real-world setting. For many, it sounded like a joke, but when the day came, Wings surprised almost everyone.
There it is!
In the ring, he moved with more confidence than people expected. While neither fighter was in prime athletic shape, Wings dominated the bout decisively. The victory was a rare and undeniable high point in his career. For once, the internet wasn't mocking him but celebrating him. He returned home to massive viewership spikes, with one stream afterward and bringing in thousands of dollars in donations. His smile was genuine, his energy renewed, and for the first time in years, it seemed like he might have turned a corner. Supporters cheered his win, and even longtime critics had to admit he had done well.
The contest, and therefore your winner, Wings of Redemption!
But as has always been the story with Wings of Redemption, progress was fleeting. What looked like momentum quickly fizzled out. In his own words, he admitted he was lazy, that he didn't enjoy working, and that he was okay with being overweight and living the way he had been living. It was a stunning admission. At a moment when the world had given him a small chance at redemption, he openly stated that he didn't have the drive to change. Viewers who had hoped the boogie fight might spark a transformation were left disappointed. The cycle repeated itself. One step forward, 2 steps back. Wings returned to streaming, but his schedule became inconsistent. He would go days without broadcasting, leaving fans frustrated. His content, when it did come, lacked energy. The trolls returned to fill the void, pointing out his lack of motivation, his squandered potential, and his apparent indifference to building something greater. Even his own supporters began to drift away.
I'm not going to change. It's not going to happen. Because I don't want to exercise. I don't want to center my channel around exercising. I don't. I like being fat. I like eating.
By the end of this era, Wings had reduced itself to gimmicks for quick cash. On more than one occasion, he accepted donations to do humiliating acts on stream, at one point even sniffing his chair for $10.
Oh, he did do the chair. My bad. Oh, that was worse than I thought it was going to be.
It was the kind of content that spoke volumes about his decline. The man who once dreamed of being a respected content creator was now relying on degrading stunts for pocket change. Worse, he often seemed to care more about addressing trolls than engaging with the genuine fans who still tried to support him. For many, it was heartbreaking to watch. Wings of Redemption was never just a troll victim or a walking meme. He was also a man with clear potential, intelligent in moments, funny when relaxed, capable of surprising people as he did in the boogie fight. Yet he could never fully escape his own flaws. His honesty often turned into self-sabotage. His laziness became a ceiling he never broke through, and his obsession with trolls ensured they remained a central part of his story, even when he claimed he wanted to move on. The story of Wings of Redemption is one of contradictions. He is both a victim and participant in his own downfall. The trolls who hounded him for years were cruel, hypocritical, and often far worse than the man they targeted. Yet Wings also gave them fuel time and time again, with his outbursts, his honesty about giving up, and his refusal to change when opportunities presented themselves. At his peak, he was earning thousands, commanding an audience, and even winning a boxing match that silenced doubters. At his lowest, he was depressed, disengaged, and performing humiliating acts for a few dollars. The tragedy of Wings is that he embodies both extremes, moments of triumph overshadowed by years of stagnation. Today, Wings of Redemption stands as one of the most infamous figures in internet history. To some, he is a cautionary tale about what happens when trolls dictate your narrative. To others, he is proof that laziness and negativity can squander even the brightest opportunities. Love him or hate him, there's no denying his impact. Wings of Redemption is a name the internet will not soon forget, not because of what he achieved, but because of everything he could have been. On this note, we'd like to wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up. It really helps us out. And if you've made it this far into the video, drop a comment down below and share your thoughts with us. What do you think about Jordie Jordan's continual downfall, from disgusting to downright worse with every passing day? Do you think his string of horrors will ever truly stop? Or is this just the beginning of another dark chapter in the Wings of Redemption saga?